All right, welcome back to our commission meeting. We are on public hearing number 5, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report based comprehensive plan amendment 24-14 capital improvement element, a text amendment. Jenna, take it away.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jenna Nobby, Senior Planner with the Growth Management Department. This is Chapter 14 of the Comprehensive Plan as part of this EAR process. And to continue with the topic of internal consistency, we have some levels of service standards that have been revised in this chapter, and these changes are consistent with chapters 1, 5, 10, 11, and 13 of the comp plan. Then we have, throughout this chapter, there has been some revisions for an emphasis on potable water systems to differentiate these from the stormwater management and conveyance systems that are written about in this chapter. And then additionally, proposed change number 8, the requirement for the level of service standards for public transportation is removed from policy 14.1C4, 14.1C6, and from section 14.5D, because the county does not have a level of service standard for public transit. And additionally, Florida statute preempts local governments from using public transit for concurrency systems. So that is removed for the sake of internal consistency. And then additionally, policy 14.1C5 in 2 places has the word mandatory stricken. And this is because for public facilities, the county no longer classifies them into the mandatory or non-mandatory category because impact fees are collected at the time of building permit, all at one time. Additionally, it's page 992. So this paren 4 right here, this proposed language, it states the lowest floor of a building inside a special flood hazard area shall be at least 2 feet above the 100-year flood elevation. And I have Amy Eason here with me. This is our environmental engineer,
Environmental resource engineer.
There we go. And so this 2 feet metric here is in response to a standard that was issued by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, for establishing the base flood elevations. And this is related to people being able to obtain a federally backed mortgage. So this 2 feet is in compliance with federal standards that were issued. Is there anything else that you'd like to
No,
add?
I think you said it.
Okay, great. And then also wanted to clarify for the record here on this same page, when this PDF was rendered with the agenda packet, some of the formatting got a little bit wonky. So I'd like to just provide a side-by-side, this paren 4 right here, and then this paren B that is proposed to be stricken. You can see it appears that this language would be underlined, but in our actual file here, this whole section is proposed to be stricken. And then additionally, this language up here in paren 4 that I just read, the federal flood insurance rate maps is staying as it is. That's not being stricken. So I just wanted to clarify if this amendment is transmitted, this image here with these 2 paragraphs is how the language would be reflected. And so this section here just got a little bit messed up. But that concludes staff's presentation of Chapter 14. We recommend approval to transmit to the State Land Planning Agency, and we are available for any questions you may have.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I'm on page 994 or 7 of 24, and it's about policy 14.1A4, state and federal arterial and collector roads. Went from level of service C to level of service D. Is that because the state and Fed changed their level of service?
This change is consistent with section 5.2B3 of Chapter 5. So this change was reflected in Chapter 5, and because it's mentioned here in Chapter 14, we're reflecting that language accordingly.
So it's not just our roads, it's state, federal, and local roads.
So this language here, yes, it's, this paren B right here that's being stricken is essentially covered here in this sentence for all other roads.
Yeah, we're striking level of service C in B and C.
I mean, in the notes, it says that the level of standards related are just to state and federal roadways.
Yeah, but we're striking
Yeah.
level C.
Yeah,
or
to be,
LIC.
to be consistent.
Okay, and this is for fire rescue. 7, A and B, advanced life support. Responses are going from 6 minutes 90% of the time in urban areas to 8 minutes 90% of the time in urban areas, and 15 minutes 90% of the time in rural areas to 20 minutes 90% of the time in rural areas. Why?
My name is Chad Chanchuli, Fire Chief, Martin County Fire Rescue. So to answer your question, really what you're looking at is old language. This was not updated for about 15 years on the fire rescue side. In there, you see where it would reference basic life support, and that will be trucks that don't have paramedics. Those trucks don't exist today. So what you see now, we're trying to clean the language where it's fire rescue response. So that's for medical and suppression, and it's all in one. The 8 minutes, 90% of the time in the urban service area, why that number is 8 minutes is if we hit 8 minutes or go over, it means we have a problem. And it means that either we have to turn on another truck or build another station. What we do in the urban service district for our response times, we average 6.5 minutes. That hasn't changed. That's staying that way. As far as your rural areas, it's 20 minutes because that's what it always has been. For ALS, that's all we have is ALS. We don't have BLS. Our response times outside the urban service district, Western Palm City, Indiantown, you're 20 minutes to get out there plus. So that right there has always been like that. We just removed all the BLS from this language. We're trying to make it easier to read, but we're not telling you our level of service is 8 minutes. What we're saying is if we hit 8 minutes, we're telling you we have a problem. We are 6.5 minutes inside the urban service district.
I don't understand. It's the numbers are going from 6 to 8 and from 15 to 20.
So what I'm trying to get you to understand is the 6 minutes were for BLS trucks. They don't exist. And why the language was created 15 years ago, I didn't author the language. I can't tell you why. I don't know why they did it like that, but it doesn't make sense. So we wanted to clean this up to where it's accurate to what the fire service is actually providing today. There's a misunderstanding. We are not increasing as far as time-wise for the level of service. The level of service is very efficient right now, but you have to put triggers in the comp plan that if we hit 8 minutes inside the urban service district, we have a problem. So that's why those numbers are in there. If I put 6 minutes in here, it means I'm not going to meet that standard. The only way I can meet that standard is if you want to build another station or if you want to have more trucks on the road, then we can lower that standard towards 6 minutes flat. But I need more people, more trucks, and more fire stations. So I'm trying to give you a realistic number.
So tell me, how many times over 8 minutes does the advanced life support have to hit over 8 minutes in order to require the county to build a new fire station?
So 90% of the time, I need to be hitting under that mark. If I am not meeting that benchmark, then that's when we have a problem, and that's when we need to start having a different conversation about fire stations. In fact, right now, we're in a study where they are looking at Western Palm City. Western Palm City is an issue for us right now, and they're doing a study as far as a needs analysis on future fire stations. That's going to be presented to the board, my understanding is in December, and then you're going to see where the true data is coming from, and then you're going to see there's a true need where we need to build another fire station and have firefighters to complement that station as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. With that, do we have any public comment? Seeing none? Oh, Commissioner Smith, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's just following public comment.
Okay, no public comment.
Oh, you have someone coming up.
I'm Geraldine Janko Dubay. I'm speaking as a citizen. With fire rescue having a threshold of 20 minutes now for areas that are outside of the urban service district, all of these developments that we are currently approving for rural lifestyle, what are the thresholds that you're addressing to assure these people that they have advanced life support? I mean, 20 minutes, that's not survivable. I'm very concerned, how all of this is addressed within the comp plan. And given the rural lifestyle amendments with these, 1,000-unit developments.
It's not 1,000-unit developments in there right next to the urban service boundary, and tell the people in western Martin County out by the lake that 20, yes, that's where the problem is, right there. Anyway, staff light.
Yes, Elise Elder, Deputy County Attorney. Just for clarification purposes, the 8 minutes and the 20 minutes are not new. Those are existing thresholds that are in the comp plan, so we're not changing those. They're just getting rid of the BLS.
Got it. Commissioner Smith.
Move we approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Thank you.
Okay, public hearing number 6, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report based comprehensive plan amendment 24-3, intergovernmental coordinating element, a text amendment. Mr. Doolin.
Thank you, members of the board. With me is Stephanie from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. This is a chapter that you have seen previously. It was presented to you in September. I believe it was September 10th. And the Board of County Commissioners voted to continue it to this meeting and considered all of our full presentation. We're happy to go back into it and do another presentation or cover any issues that you have, but our staff recommendation is for approval.
Commissioner Hurd.
Same questions I had on September 10th. I'm on, I don't know what page it is, 6 of 17 maybe, is the makeup of the MPO. Was that changed?
It was.
Okay.
It's now 5
Okay.
shown on there.
And also the coordination of utility services, policy 3.1E4 is the interlocal between SMRU and Martin County expires in January of 2025. Has that been noted?
I believe that's been added as well.
Okay. Is there going to be a resolution to this interlocal before January 2025? Okay, thanks.
We can revisit that before adoption.
Commissioner Campy.
Mr. Doolin, just the same question. The changes that you're making in this chapter, are they just administrative and housekeeping, or are there anything, in your opinion, that is consequential?
No, there is no substantive changes in this.
Thank you. So there are some, but in these, because my concern is when people said that there were so many chapters that we would be reviewing that there'd be no time. Many of the chapters had purely just like changing Village of Indiantown and some of these other things. So it wasn't like you were turning 17 chapters inside out.
Correct. Most of the text in this chapter remains unchanged.
Thank you. Motion to accept staff's presentation.
Do we have any public comment? Seeing none.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public hearing number 7, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report based comprehensive plan amendment 24-6 housing element, a text amendment. Mr. Doolin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll highlight one subject that was discussed at the board previously considered this amendment also. 6-0. And this one subject that I believe was, yes, 6.3C. Staff had proposed a different piece of text and striking most of this, but at board direction, we instead just altered this enough to be consistent internally with Section 4.2A9 in Chapter 4. And that was the piece of board direction we took from the last public hearing.
Perfect. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, back to the board.
Move staff's recommendation.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith and then a very quiet second by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Public hearing number 8, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report-based comprehensive plan amendment 24-07, recreation element, text amendment. Mr. Doolin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no changes from the last presentation, what was made, and we have no additional items to discuss. This chapter has fewer changes than all the others.
Any questions for Mr. Doolin? Commissioner Hurd.
The comment, because of Section 7.3, which says the county will encourage planned unit development to provide active parkland based on current levels of service. I hate planned unit development, so I'm not going to support this.
Hate is such a strong word.
Yes.
Not for how the way I feel about PUD.
At least you didn't say despise. It could be worse. Anyway, any public comment? Seeing none.
Move staff's recommendation.
Wait, do you have a public comment?
Oh. Did you fill out a thing from last one? Because I got, the next one you're up for is 11. Go ahead.
PH8, right? I just had a question because this is Geraldine Janko Dubé on behalf of the Treasured Lands. This entire section was addressed and really not much in the way of anything was rewritten. But the question was, when Martin County is negotiating agreements with PUDs regarding parkland and recreation, why are managed recreation sites that provide a range of fields, courts, and picnic areas, why aren't they providing also more passive recreation areas, such as trailways or just hiking in environmental natural areas? Why is that left out of the definition of recreation for the county?
There's no prohibition, members of the board, from having trails and passive recreation in any of the parks, whether they be active or passive.
Okay.
I did move staff's recommendation.
Second.
Any public comment?
You did.
I did that already. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting because she doesn't like PUDs. Anyway, she hates them. Public hearing number 9, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report, base comprehensive plan amendment 24-08, coastal management element, a text amendment. Mr. Doolin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With me is Amy Eason, our coastal engineer, and we have no additional changes to Chapter 8 that to present or discuss. This has been previously considered by the board, and staff recommends approval.
With that, any public comment? Seeing none, any questions for Mr. Doolin? Seeing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public hearing number 10, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report-based comprehensive plan amendment 24-09, conservation and open space element, a text amendment. Mr. Doolin.
Again, this has been presented to the board. We have, I don't believe we have any changes additional to this. and staff recommends approval.
What do you have with you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sean McCarthy, Principal Planner with the Environmental Division of the Growth Management Department. He's here to assist with any questions on wetlands, the composite wetlands map, et cetera.
Questions for staff? Did I ask for public, do we have any public comment? Seeing none,
Staff recommendation.
we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by
That can't be.
Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
What? Why didn't you ask a question then?
I did I went through these before.
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Public hearing number 11, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation appraisal report based comprehensive plan amendment 24-10, chapter 10, sanitary sewer services element, a text amendment. Ms. Lovelady.
Good afternoon, Samantha Lovelady with Growth Management. I'm here with Leo Rapetti from the Utilities Department, Technical Services Administrator, if I recall correctly. And we have no changes to Chapter 10 since you last saw this, except for we're requesting one change. And that is, it was actually brought up by a member of the public, and we think that woman, that lady, had a good suggestion. The sentence here says the foregoing does not apply to areas designated as a rural area of opportunity. We are not one of those areas, so that was probably copied in from statute, and we're just recommending taking that one sentence out. Other than that, it's exactly the way you've seen it before, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, any questions for staff? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none.
Wait, she's
Approval with the
standing up.
removal of the
Wait.
rural areas of
She's coming.
economic opportunity. Oops, I'm sorry, she's coming up.
Geraldine Janko Dubé is speaking on behalf of the Guardians. The Guardians had sent a letter, and they asked questions regarding the wastewater treatment systems, and they noted that they're designed to treat pathogens, and they have minimal effects on nutrient concentrations, which are a leading cause of deterioration of waters in Martin County. The Guardians would like an explanation of why the current level of service of 100 GPD gallons per day for both residential and non-residential purposes is being increased to 195 GPD.
Leo Rapetti with Martin County Utilities. I can address that. We actually changed from 195 gallons per day per equivalent residential connection to, from 100 gallons per day per capita per person to 195 gallons per day per ERC, equivalent residential connection. Within the commercial, industrial, non-residential world, it's a whole lot easier to look at the numbers based on gallons per equivalent residential connection, since there are no residents associated with that. So
Actually,
the 195 gallons a day is also in our master plan for our water and wastewater element.
Probably at the end of the day is less, right? So, anyway. All right.
So let's just be clear, if you had 100 gallons per day per person, and you have a family of 6, that residential equivalent unit could have 600 gallons.
Correct.
And now they can have 195 for the entire household.
So that's
Well, there's also other residents that have one person in the household, so it works out to an equivalent residential connection is 195 gallons per day per household for wastewater flows.
instead of 100 per person. Got it.
Yes. 95 per household instead of 100 per person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other public comment?
Positive.
Seeing none, back to the board.
I think
Move staff's recommendation.
Oh. We have a motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Public hearing number 12. Legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report based comprehensive plan amendment 24-11, Chapter 11, potable water services element, 10-year water supply facilities work plan, a text amendment. Ms. Lovelady.
Good afternoon, Samantha Lovelady with the Growth Management Department. We have Chapter 11, which is the potable water services element in the 10-year water supply facilities work plan. Excuse me. I have Ann Murray, who's the county hydrogeologist, here with me. And nothing's changed in this chapter since the last time you saw it. I do want to point out an additional change that we have. And so it's to 11-1, which is areas currently served by regional utilities. And this is currently what the figure looks like. And this piece down here, where this line is, that is not within the secondary urban service district. And so we are proposing to move the line up there. And same thing with 11-2. And you'll see we're requesting to move that. And those, we think this is just a Scrivener's error. So with that, staff recommends approval of CPA 2411.
Okay, Commissioner Hurd.
This isn't related to that, to this element. Whose utility is serving Ranch and Apogee, or Three Lakes?
Martin County
County.
Utilities.
Okay. And Discovery is being served by SMRU?
That's correct.
All right, thanks.
For sure.
Okay, Ms. Dubay. I do have a one for this one. 11.
What was the last one?
We did 11? Oh,
Well,
we're on
this is
12, never
PH.
mind.
No, it's 11.
This is PH 12.
We're on
It's
12.
Chapter 11, but PH 12.
My fault. My
Yeah,
fault
it's-
completely, I'm sorry.
It's hard to follow. The
Yeah,
numbers
it
don't
is. I
match
can
the
just-
chapter.
We were going so fast, too, that, okay, methodically. Okay, with that, do we have any public comment? Oh, Commissioner Hurd. Light was on, or is that old?
Yeah, old
I'm
line.
sorry, I'm way behind the
Recommendation with the additional change to the
Map.
South Fork High School secondary boundary. Not secondary, but boundary.
Yeah, it's taking a piece out of the secondary that's not supposed to be in there.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public hearing number 13, legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report, base comprehensive plan amendment 24-12, Chapter 12, solid and hazardous waste, a text amendment. Ms. Lovelady.
Good afternoon, Samantha Lovelady with Growth Management, and I'm here with Sam Amerson, the Utilities Director. And nothing has changed about this chapter since you saw it previously. And with that, staff recommends approval. We can go through any changes, by the way, if you don't want to.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none.
Move staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Hurd. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listed in the next one here. Where are you going? Legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal
Doing this one.
report
We told
based.
her earlier we wanted Jenna to,
Huh?
yeah, we told her earlier we wanted Jenna to.
Oh. Base Comprehensive Plan Amendment 24-13.
Okay.
Chapter 13. Drainage and natural groundwater aquifer recharge element. It says Samantha Lovelady right here on my piece of paper.
Okay.
Let's go.
Sorry about that. Samantha Lovelady, Growth Management Department, and this is Amy Eason, our coastal engineer. And has anything changed since we last?
Yeah, there's one change, similar to the capital improvement element for the 2 feet above for setting finished floors because of HUD. And it's to be consistent.
Okay,
So that was the only change.
okay. Any questions for staff?
It's an IPA?
Any public comment? Oh, yes, you do. I'm sorry. Thank you.
We're on 13.
We're on 14.
Oh,
Public hearing 14.
It's pump pH 14. They don't match.
Might as well just stay here.
13.
Geraldine Jenko Dubay on behalf of the Treasured Lands and the Guardians of Martin County. In the staff report under section 13.3, groundwater and aquifer recharge, policy 13.4 states Martin County should give the highest priority to projects that reduce harmful impacts on the St. Lucie River, specifically the St. Lucie estuary. The language should include not only those areas within those estuaries, but also areas that are discharging into the Loxahatchee River. The Loxahatchee River pollutant reduction has its own plan boundaries, and that is in the south area of the county. It shouldn't be also the county's job to monitor the pollutants, although that is the only way to confirm compliance, but rather written so that the burden of compliance should be the responsibility of those contributing to the pollutants to stop polluting and prevent the problem by monitoring. And the language should reflect the policy in those terms. Additionally, policy 13.2A11 should incorporate the concept of preventing saltwater inclusion into estuary environments. This would require analysis of minimum base flows and seasonal adjusted basis. These are the flows that must be protected in order to preserve our freshwater that we need, the potable water for our people. It seems also that there should be some language included that would reference the guidelines that South Florida Water Management has already written in order for Martin County to acknowledge that they exist. Thank you.
So, actually, I do agree about the Loxahatchee
Me too.
watershed. Some folks in the northern part of the county forget that we actually have 2 rivers in this county. How hard would it be to add that language to include not only the St. Lucie estuary, but the Loxahatchee watershed?
I'll review it, but I remember having some locks language somewhere else. So I'll just take a look and see if I've covered it elsewhere, but I remember adding locks in there because I'm very familiar with that pollutant reduction plan down there.
We would need, sorry. Elise Elder, Deputy County Attorney, we would need definitive language from the board to put something in there
Okay.
or provide the coastal engineer with discretion on that issue.
Well, I don't mind the discretion part, but I would simply think that where it says St. Lucie River Estuary / Loxahatchee River,
We can add that language and then make sure it's not consistent with something else in the policy if the
And
board
then
would like that.
give them the description. Okay.
Or can we give Dr. Eason some time until, an hour from now, 2 hours from now, so that she can review this and see if she can find the LOX language?
We could table this hearing if you want until later on today and see if she can find the language and come back to the board. That is also an option, yes.
That is,
Do that.
That's actually important. I would really like to do that.
All right, let me review it and make sure, because I do remember adding Locke's language in here. And it could be because of the background information, making sure that all of our reduction plans are in place, and I'll review that part. Okay?
We will need a motion to table it later on today.
Move to table Chapter 13.
Second.
I'll be back.
Okay, we have a motion to table Chapter 13 for a little bit from Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So I'm going to draw a circle around that so I don't come back to it. Anyway, okay. Public hearing number 15. Legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report based comprehensive plan amendment 24-16, arts and culture historic preservation text amendment. Mr. Doolin.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we have no changes from our past presentation on September 10, and staff recommends approval of transmitting this chapter to the State Land Planning Agency.
Who are you with?
Terribly sorry. Stephanie with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council is with me. She did actually the work on this.
Whose staff light is this? Somebody?
I think it's an old light.
Old light.
Old light, okay. Okay, any questions for staff?
Sorry.
Seeing none, any public comment?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public hearing number 16, which actually talks about 7. Why couldn't you guys line the number? Legislative public hearing to consider transmittal of evaluation and appraisal report based comprehensive plan amendment 24-17, public school facility element, text amendment. Mr. Doolin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Again, this is the same text that was presented to the board on September the 10th. With me is Stephanie from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. We want to thank the staff at the school district for actually doing a lot of the work on this and providing a lot of the data analysis. Staff recommends approval of transmitting this chapter to the State Land Planning Agency and all of the state agencies.
Okay.
Chair, pending any public comment, I'll move staff's recommendation of approval.
Okay, any public comment on this? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public hearing number 17. Legislative public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance for comprehensive plan amendment 24-23, Three Lakes Golf Club, a text amendment. Mr. Doolin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is a proposed text amendment. You have already considered this for transmittal, and it is coming back today for adoption. I believe you have on the dais some public comment, or not public comment, but agency comments that came in. We have no agency comments that would be the basis of a challenge for this proposed amendment. We had to update the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council comments because they initially gave us their draft comments, and then they gave us the comments after the council actually voted on this. So that's what's one of the things on the dais there. I believe also there's FWC and DEP comments also, but none would form the basis of a challenge. This is a proposed text change that does not change most of the rural lifestyle text. I'll go to 3015. The proposed text change is entirely within the shaded text right there. It would allow a maximum of 324 bedrooms, which is already the maximum that would be permitted. If you did 6 bedrooms times 54 golf cottages, it would be 324 either way. They're just putting in the numbers. It limits it to 1 or 2 stories, and instead of being limited to 6 bedrooms per cottage, it's between 2 and 12 bedrooms per cottage. Since this would be located within a 1,000-acre minimum piece of property, it would not have any effect on the surrounding property owners, and it would not have any real effect in terms of public facility provision. So staff recommends approval of this, adoption of this proposed text change.
Okay, any questions for staff? Commissioner Campy?
Based on the fact that Mr. Doolan said that it really does not increase the number that had been approved originally, it's just giving the owners a flexibility to go from 2-unit cottages, 2-bedroom cottages to 12-bedroom, and any variation thereof, maintaining the same total number of bedrooms. I agree with staff's recommendation, and I make the motion to approve.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
She went with the late.
Did she?
Yeah, she went with the late.
Yeah, I'm not going to support this. It doesn't meet any of the criteria for a comp plan amendment. It's urban sprawl on steroids. It's conspicuous consumption. It's preposterous that it doesn't count toward their densities. And 12-bedroom units completely outside the urban service boundary hardly qualifies as rural lifestyle.
No, I'll let it go.
Okay. So we had a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you for your work.
Okay, Department Quasi-Judicial Number 1, request approval of the First Amendment to the Three Lakes Golf Course Golf Club Plan Unit Development Zoning Agreement B1150-008, including a revised master and phasing plan and Phase 3 final site plan. Mr. Elam. Anybody that will be testifying, please stand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
There are no explainers.
Do we have you turned in all your proper paperwork to the proper person?
I have a copy of my work history and the agenda item for Exhibit 1.
Okay, do we have any ex parte, Commissioner Smith?
I do, and they're filed.
I do, and they've been filed.
I do, they've been filed.
I do, they've been filed.
I have none, and they've been filed.
Okay, I think that's it. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Brian Elam, Principal Planner with the Growth Management Department. This is an application by Lucido and Associates on behalf of Three Lakes Golf Club LLC for approval of the First Amendment to the Three Lakes Golf Club PUD zoning agreement, including revised master and phasing plans and Phase 3 final site plan. Included with this application is a request for a certificate of public facilities reservation. The property is approximately 1,217 acres and is located west and east of Canner Highway, approximately 2.4 miles southwest of Interstate 95 at 11104 Apogee Drive in Stewart. The property has a rural lifestyle future land use and Three Lakes Golf Club planned unit development zoning agreement. The revised master site plan documents the changes that are consistent with the Phase 3 final site plan and revised phasing plan that are part of this First Amendment application. Revisions to the master site plan include expand and revise golf course lake configurations, relocate golf cottages from Phase 2 into Phase 3, revise golf cottage design, access, and parking in Phases 1, 2, and 3, revise golf club amenities, including access and parking, changing the tunnel under Canner Highway with a bridge over Canner Highway, remove the gated entrance at Southwest Apogee Way and associated turn lane improvements, add helipad per FAA and FDOT permitting requirements, and move the employee housing facilities from Phase 3 to Phase 4. Revisions to the phasing plan include moving the construction of the employee housing and supportive infrastructure to Phase 4, adding CO subphase descriptions detailing the building permit and construction elements to be completed, and updating the phasing summaries to be consistent with the proposed changes. The Three Lakes Golf Club received major final site plan approval to construct 2 golf courses and related amenities on approximately 1,217-acre property in September 2022. In June 2023, the site plan was revised to add 14 golf cottages and a golf clubhouse. Upon the approval of the future land use amendment from agricultural to rural lifestyle and the Three Lakes Golf Club Planned Unit Development Zoning Agreement, including master and phasing plans approved on February 20th, 2024, these previously approved developments were incorporated into the PUD as Phase 1 and are shown here in green. Phase 2, identified by the tan shading, included 8 golf cottages, north golf course, performance center, east maintenance building, and golf training center. The blue shading identifies the areas of proposed construction shown on the Phase 3 final site plan that is included with this first amendment. I'm just going to go briefly over some of the changes. The Phase 3 final site plan includes 39 cottage buildings with 6 bedrooms each. The Phase 1 cottage buildings, I wish this were much clearer and larger, remain unchanged, and they are the quantities remain unchanged. It's 14 cottages of 2 or 4 bedrooms. They're located here, Golf Cottage Pod A and Golf Cottage Pod B, with a total of 40 bedrooms. The Phase 2 cottage approvals consisted of 8 cottages and 24 bedrooms and were identified on the Phase 2 final site plan and phasing plan as Golf Cottage Pod C and D. They were located right here, where this area is blue now, and this tan area here. The 5 golf cottage buildings that were in Golf Cottage Pod C location here have been removed, and this approximate 2-acre will become native landscape and tree protection area. And the 3 golf cottages that were located down here for the Phase 2 have also been removed and replaced with 1 6-bedroom cottage identified on these proposed plans as a pool spa cottage pod. In total, the cottage count for this project is 54, and bedroom count is 280, which is within the threshold allowed by the rural lifestyle future land use, which allows 54 cottages and 324 bedrooms. The River Club, which on the previous approval was located up here, this area, has been removed and been replaced with a standard boat dock access. Additional lakes have been added, 3A and 3B, which I believe are here and here. And I just want to point them out because they're in Phase 1, and predominantly all the work for this proposal is the 3rd phase, which is highlighted with blue. So the River Club was removed. The additional lakes 3A and B have been added in the Phase 1 area. The tunnel bridge, which was here, or the tunnel, which was here, has been, is proposed as a bridge now. The gated entrance, which was located here off Canner Highway, has been removed along with the associated turn lane improvements. And the helipad has been added over here. And then what was, and now the phasing plan has 4 phases, and the housing has been moved to Phase 4. I think that, yes. So review of this application by the local planning agency is not required, and development review staff have found the Three Lakes Golf Club LLC application to comply with all applicable regulations in the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan as detailed in the staff report. Staff recommends approval of this application and move that the board receive and file the agenda item and all its attachments is in the staff report as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the First Amendment to the Three Lakes Golf Club PUD zoning agreement, including revised master and phasing plans, and adopt a resolution to approve the Phase 3 final site plan for the Three Lakes Golf Club PUD project. That concludes the presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, applicant.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Bob Raines, land use attorney with the Gunster Law Firm. Here on behalf of the applicant today, we appreciate the opportunity to present this amendment to you. We know it's been a long day. We are pleased to state that we have received and reviewed the staff report, and we agree with the comments, the conclusions, and the recommendations in that staff report. If I could begin our presentation, Commissioner Jenkins, I'd like to just ask staff a couple of quick questions if I could. And then I'll bring in Mr. Crady for some testimony and a short presentation. Mr. Elam, you said you had been sworn in. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
And you turned in your resume also, I believe, for the record?
Yes.
And you're the project coordinator for this project, correct?
Yes.
And so as part of that, or Section F and Section G of the staff report, are those your responsibility?
Yes.
And if I could, sir, just read Section F as a determination of compliance with the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan requirements. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the findings of compliance in that staff report state that staff has reviewed this application and finds that it complies with the LDR as detailed within the report, and the staff recommends approval of this development application as consistent with the guidelines and the standards of the applicable comprehensive goals, policy, objectives, and policies as implemented in the LDRs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that still your recommendation?
Yes.
And then also on Section G, determination of compliance with the land use, the site designs, standards, the zoning and procedural requirements, also your responsibility
Yes.
to review? And the findings of compliance there state, staff has reviewed this application and finds that it complies with the LDRs as detailed within the report. Staff recommends approval of this development application as consistent with the guidelines and the standards of the applicable comprehensive goals, objectives, and policies as implemented in the LDRs. Is that a correct reading, sir?
Yes, sir.
And is that still your recommendation? And
Yes, it is.
okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'd like at this time to have Mr. Crady come up and make a short presentation. I do have some questions for him before he begins, though. Mr. Crady, if you'll introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, Morris Crady, Senior Planner with Lucido and Associates.
And have you been sworn
Senior
in?
Partner, I'm just,
And you've been sworn in?
yes, I have.
And can you give us a brief description, sir, of your education and work
Yes,
history?
I'm a 35-year member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I worked for the first 10 years of my career with the Martin County Community Development Department, now Growth Management Department. And I've been doing land planning in Martin County continuously since April 1st, 1982.
And can you describe the paper that I'm handing you, sir?
Yes, that's my resume.
And is it current?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'd like to submit this as applicant's exhibit number 1. Thank you, sir. And Mr. Crady?
Okay, thank you. Okay, of course, I appreciate the work that Brian's done. I think he gave a very comprehensive overview of the project. I'm going to dig into a little more detail with a colored rendering, just to kind of give, this is to show you this is the approved plan as approved last year, up to date. And just going from north to south, this is golf cottages. This is the River Club that we're removing. So there will be increased tree preservation and native plant preservation in this area. We had a racket club here that we're relocating down into the south end of the property. I'll go over that in a moment. That also leads to the preservation of additional native trees. The Kenna House is located in this location, and there is an amendment to remove the 5 cottages here in favor of tree protection. And I'll go over that in a little more detail in a moment. The Pool and Spa Club has always been here. The clubhouse, which is under construction. We have cottages on either side of the clubhouse that are under construction. And then further south, we have additional cottages. The east maintenance, or the west maintenance facility, and this is was a future short course that's part of Phase 3. I'll show you that in a moment. And then, of course, the tunnel, and on the other side, the employee housing hasn't changed, and none of these facilities have really changed. I did update the aerial, though, just to show what is adjacent to us. This is South Florida Gateway Industrial Park. Is now several buildings have been completed. There is a signalized intersection here, and this we're extending this road, which we named Southwest Phipps Place in honor of Mr. Phipps. This is where his house was located, and this is where we're putting the helipad on this lake. The employee housing is still in the same location. The east maintenance facility was approved with Phase 2, and the north course, which is under construction, was approved with Phase 2. And just to dig a little more in a large version of it, all of these facilities, again, we're going with a standard dock, no marina or boat facilities, although there may be a boat there in the future for the use by the residents or the members and guests. There are no homes for sale on this property, so these are all golf cottages that are owned and operated by the club. They're not for sale or for lease. The Kenna House, this is the area along Hole 3 where we removed 5 cottages in favor of saving some significant trees in that location. The Wee course is a course for children. It's a practice facility for children that is adjacent to the Pool and Spa Club, which is part of the Phase 3 final site plan. That hasn't changed. The clubhouse, again, under construction. Maintenance facilities is completed. These are the additional golf cottages in Phase 3, or at least the original golf cottages in Phase 3, but we did relocate the racket club that was in the north part of the project to this location so it can interact with the short course. So there's a 12-hole short course that's being built in this location, and the racket club and the clubhouse for that facility will all be contained in this area. And then if you're looking at the east side of the road, again, this is the South Florida Industrial Park. Martin County Future Operations Center is also located here, and this is all industrial property within the freestanding urban service district. The helipad, again, located on the lake, adjacent to Phipps Place. And then we slightly modified the east clubhouse. We did add a service and emergency access connection to Kenner Highway in this location. And just, as you can see, one of the next slides will show a blow-up of the Kenner Highway frontage, but I wanted to note that the vegetation that in the right-of-way is really limited to our frontage at this location. There is really no landscape or vegetation within the DOT right-of-way north of this, and this is about a quarter mile between our property and South Florida Gateway Industrial Park. This is a blow-up of the Kenner Highway frontage, just showing where the road is built. The road is built actually a little to the west of the right-of-way, and there was never really a lot of vegetation in this location, but this is where we installed the water and sewer lines that have been constructed now within this right-of-way that runs along our property line. To the best of our ability, we've saved as many of the oaks and trees while that construction was underway within the right-of-way. But you can see the majority of all the vegetation is located on the east side of the actual paved road. And that continues all the way down to our frontage. And you can see here, all of the vegetation on the other side is really on our property already. And what I did the other day was stand in the middle of Kenner Highway and take a picture of the vegetation looking north towards the industrial park. And this vegetation, except for a few trees, is entirely on our site. That's all being saved. It's all part of a native buffer that is retained on our property, and we've been supplementing that buffer as well. The majority of all this vegetation is within the right-of-way, and you can see some of these pines are over 70 feet tall. And then we have additional vegetation that we're putting on the other side on our property. So there'll be a significant buffer on both sides of the highway. You can see this is all going to be native landscape. This is all native landscape. This is all native landscape, and we're doing native landscaping along Bridge Road. The main entrance is under construction. It looks wide open there, but we are installing additional native vegetation so that all you'll see going by the site is the road going into the project. There's no big sign there or anything like that. So we're trying to maintain the rural character. So that was looking north. This is looking south, going towards Indiantown. Again, all of this vegetation is on our property. It's not in the right-of-way. And all that's being saved as part of our site design. This is within the right-of-way. So, and again, going back to the previous picture, you can see the property line pretty clearly. Right here is the silt fence that was installed along our property boundary, and this is the disturbance caused by the water and sewer installation. So I understand that there's a concern with going from a tunnel to a bridge, and our engineers spent almost a year going back and forth with DOT, and we do have our FDOT expert here today, if you have any questions of him. But at the end of the day, the road is a state road. We have to meet DOT standards and requirements. Their main concern was public safety. Early on in our discussions, they made it clear that they do not consider an at-grade crossing that would cause a stop in the road a safe alternative. They were looking for an alternative that minimized disruption of the Canner Highway traffic. I think all of us, including Martin County and Apogee, was concerned with the protection of the existing canopy of native trees along within the right-of-way and adjacent to the right-of-way. And also, one of the things that we found out when we were looking at the main entrance that was eliminated on the east side of Canner Highway, we were told by DOT that those turn lanes and the drainage for those turn lanes at the main entrance on Canner Highway would have resulted in removing a large portion of those trees. Another concern that we had in developing our current plan. The tunnel was a engineering exercise with DOT and our experts. They did a lot of groundwater table analysis, soil conditions, drainage had to be looked at. They were concerned with hydrostatic pressure, which similar to an empty pool, the groundwater table causing the tunnel to somehow buckle and affect the safety of the traveling public on Canner Highway. So they were very conservative in their approach, that they wanted us to excavate 35 feet below the existing grade, which is deeper than we can dig a lake in Martin County. And in order to offset the ballast, and the alternative to that was to raise the road elevation rather than going 35 feet underground, because that led to other environmental concerns, engineering concerns. They were concerned with the maintenance and operation of pumps and generators. All that kind of had to be analyzed, and they led us into a position where they felt the safest alternative for crossing a state road, in this case, was a bridge that could handle not only our pedestrian traffic and golf carts, but also suitable for emergency access vehicles for vehicular use. So that bridge is a DOT standard bridge that will allow full access from one side of the street to the other. And the problem, the only way we could really work out a way to construct it was by raising the elevation where the tunnel was going. And by raising that elevation, it eliminated the concern with the hydrostatic pressure, but it also required the removal of virtually all of the native vegetation within the existing DOT right-of-way. All of that we'd have to raise where the tunnel was going, and then transition approximately 1,700 feet on either side of the tunnel, which would have wiped out those 70-foot tall pine trees. And that was a concern by Apogee. I know that was a concern by Martin County, and everything that we're doing is trying to preserve those trees. It also required a temporary bypass road during construction of the tunnel, which would have further impacted the trees within the right-of-way. And turn lane and drainage requirements, I went over that. We did remove an entrance there because of the impact on the tree canopy, and the tunnel allows, or the bridge allows us to remove that main entrance on Kenner Highway. And the construction timeline, they're worried about the impact to the traveling public. The construction timeline would have meant, for a tunnel, would have meant that road would have been in disrepair for approximately 24 months. We can build a bridge without impacting those trees in the right-of-way, and that will allow construction in less than 12 months, and the impact on the traveling public is just a few weeks, not months at all. So all that was considered, and that's why we chose the bridge approach, and this would allow us to enter the property off of Bridge Road as the main entrance and allow continuous access without constructing any main entrance or having to remove the vegetation within the right-of-way. And while the bridge is under construction, members will be using a service and delivery entrance that's been constructed in this location. There's less trees in this area, and we did add another service and emergency access on the other side of the road, but that does not affect these enormous tree canopy that's apparent here. Again, that's the canopy of trees that we're looking to preserve, and this pine tree alone, I think, is about 90 feet. And so we tried to lay in a bridge design that showed how that canopy could be protected. The bridge is 32 feet wide. DOT required that we build the bridge so that it doesn't interrupt the future four-laning of the road, so the span itself is 170 feet, so that DOT can come in, and there is no immediate plan to four-lane State Road 76. It isn't warranted now. It may be decades before that happens. And so and it is this, the height was also a consideration. I did talk to Foundry, the industrial developer to the north, and we're proposing the same height as the Turnpike overpass and the I-95 overpass. So it doesn't affect commerce. It doesn't affect any of the activity on Kenner Highway that's currently in place. So, the owners are, understand the concern with the bridge, and they are going the extra mile to create some architectural design, but I'm almost thinking it should probably look like it's been there for a long time rather than kind of create an attraction. But we are willing and to work with DOT and reduce the view corridor along Kenner Highway by planting vegetation along both sides of the tree, along the approach, on both sides of the bridge approach going north and south. So that is where we are today with enhanced landscaping. I'll just go over really quick the other elements that I think Brian mentioned well. Everything in green is Phase 1, and blue is the Phase 3 final site plan improvements, including the relocation of cottages here, the short course and cottage and amenities in this location, the East Clubhouse, and connection of an emergency access service drive to Kenner in this location, and the helipad. And the employee housing is moved into a future phase. So this is the Kenner House, and this is looking off, I think, the third hole. That runs along the Kenner House, and we have proposed to put cottages in this location, 5 cottages and about a 2 or 3 acre site there. And it was Lynn Connolly actually made it a point to focus on preserving those trees because there are some very ancient pines and oaks in this area. And if you just look at this canopy of this tree right here, this is that tree right here. And this is where the cottages were going. And that tree has about a 46-inch diameter at breast height, a very a champion pine, I would call it. So all of this vegetation here, and in the other locations where the racquetball club was located, where the River Club was located, we're all relocated to save the existing native trees. And that's part of what Apogee is all about, at least on this side of the road. As you probably know, the property on the east side of the road was heavily impacted through by the previous owner and didn't have the wonderful vegetation. So we're still meeting all of our original public benefits. The native landscaping along Bridge Road, we've located thousands of native trees. We've managed the preserve areas in accordance with the PAMP. We're enhancing wildlife and prohibiting hunting on the property, which has occurred for decades. We created the wildlife corridor along the St. Lucie Canal by removing exotic plants and planting trees within a 200-foot wide core right-of-way that will be maintained by us. We have permission to maintain that free of exotic vegetation. And when I say us, I'm speaking of Apogee, of course. We're exceeding the minimum open space required by rural lifestyle by over 312 acres. We're at 95% open space, mainly because we have no homes on this site. There are no homes for sale. There's no home sites. We're able to create 95% open space because of that. And we've increased the acreage of lakes, which holds more water, by building additional lakes in Phase 1 and also the lakes in Phase 3 that are part of the short course. We're opening up the golf course for 3 golf outings during the peak golf season. That's still done, and we did donate $30,000 to Martin County for protection of orchid species that was found in the Bridge Road public right-of-way. That's more or less where our turn lanes are going along Bridge Road. That money's been paid, and that, as far as I know, that money has been used by the county for that effort. This is just a depiction of some of these photos I think you've seen before, but it shows the care that was taken in the design of the West Golf Course, working around existing trees that could not be otherwise relocated. All throughout the West Golf Course, these scenes are visible. This is an example of just a couple of large trees relocated to the 250-foot core right-of-way. There is a berm outside the 250 feet that prevents any of our stormwater from entering the canal, so we're completely isolated from the canal, and there is no discharge of our golf course water directly into the canal. This is an example of some of the native buffers we built along the perimeter of the site, relocating everything from saw palmetto to cabbage palms, oaks, and pines, and again, working around cabbage palm hammocks, working around oak trees, trying to carve in a course that really emphasizes the unique natural characteristics of the site. But on the other side of the course, on the other side of the road, I should say, which is about 700 acres, where we have the north and south course, this is a view from, this was taken last week just to show you the progress on the south course. This is the standing at one of the tees along the driving range, which is a 360-degree driving range, looking at the Performance Center. And behind the Performance Center, there is Bridge Road. So that is a view from the looking south towards Bridge Road. This is another view from that same area, looking again south towards Bridge Road. The Performance Center is over here, and you can see barely this little lake, which has been constructed between the golf course and Bridge Road, which is basically this location. So I was standing here taking pictures first of the Performance Center and then of this view. And again, all of this is being revegetated and planted with native vegetation, except when you get into the site. The one thing about, just going back to this previous view, this may look like we took out a lot of vegetation, but that happened to be the area where there was hundreds, if not 1,000, small pine trees and oaks that were planted by the previous owner and managed for hunting pheasants and quail. So we were able to take all those trees and relocate them because they weren't too large to relocate. So that opened up that area, and I can tell you we've been storing a lot of water during this rainy season that has prevented additional discharge into the St. Lucie Canal. And so with that understanding, I'll be glad to answer any questions. We do have our FDOT expert here and our engineers and environmental planners if you have any questions.
And just a couple questions for you, Mr. Crady. You're familiar with the Martin County Land Development Regulations and the Comprehensive plan?
Yes, I am.
And you reviewed this project and worked on this project, correct?
Yes, I have.
And in your professional opinion, does this project meet the requirements of the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations?
It does.
Thank you. As Mr. Crady said, that concludes our presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions. We have our team here. Thank you.
Commissioner Heatherington.
I have a couple questions for Mr. Crady.
Okay.
Yes.
So firstly, you mentioned that some of the public benefits were on Bridge Road for enhanced landscaping. So I happened to drive by there a couple weeks ago, and the large structure that is on Bridge Road, are you planning on completely camouflaging that and landscaping that so that you would not see that from the road?
That structure is the guardhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, except for the little bit of pavement, the road that goes in there. You may get a peek when you go on by, but you'd have to stop to see it, and you won't see it as you're driving by. But there will be a peak, where the road is, where we have to have access to it.
Because I had forgotten, many of your public benefits really stem off of Bridge Road protections.
Yes.
So the fact that you should not be able to see that entrance at all with landscape from Bridge Road.
Okay. Yes, I'm very much aware of that, and I've been having, I know there's a slide in here of an enlarged version. Let me just see if I can get to that.
You just have to scroll the wheel.
Do you know how to do that? Really? Yeah, you're right. It's technology.
The mouse, it is brand new.
Wait, I'm going the wrong way then. I just want to get back to that shows this one. Yeah, so I understand. So we're going to tighten this up so it's very clear that the only thing that you'll be able to see is the access going into there. But we do have a landscape island right here that will prevent the view of the guardhouse. So there is an island there that's been designed. So and there is no signage. We're trying to make this as discreet as possible.
Right. So the next question, and you went over this somewhat in your presentation, why the sudden departure from a tunnel to an overpass over Canner Highway? So all the protections are on Bridge Road, and now there's a proposed, from the tunnel, there'll be an overpass that crosses from one side of the property on Canner Highway. You mentioned in your presentation preserving the rural character, and when we approved this, there was a tunnel. That's not what I had in mind for preserving the rural integrity of this corridor. So now it feels like we're being asked to change directions, and there are no protections for Canner Highway. There are only protections for Bridge Road. And in your presentation, you kept referring to they. They said that there's this disruption in traffic. They said the construction time. Who are you referring to as they?
100% DOT, and I think, that's the difference between Bridge Road and Kenner Highway. It's a DOT road, it's used for, major commerce. They had a very much a concern with the tunnel, and they were creating a situation where it was not constructible, and they feel a bridge is the safest alternative for crossing the road.
Are they here to speak to this?
We do have the DOT expert that met with DOT.
DOT, you keep saying that they are saying, the DOT. Is the DOT here to answer questions on what they would like?
No, we have no
Because we work many times with the MPO, and the DOT does not take orders from us. Can you put that picture of the overpass back up?
Oh, let me see, where is it?
Scroll.
Yeah.
So if the DOT is asking you to do these things in lieu of a tunnel, when you submitted the application, you submitted under the premises that the DOT was going to approve the tunnel, correct?
Yeah, it was a requirement.
And the DOT denied approving the tunnel?
They didn't deny it. They just made it to a point where we would have to raise the elevation of the road in order to construct it, which would have impacted the vegetation. All that vegetation along there would have to have been wiped out.
And an overpass doesn't disturb the vegetation?
Correct, except for where it's crossing the road.
And who is going to be in charge of the architectural design of the overpass?
Well, again, this is what we've submitted, and we even had to work hard to get DOT.
Submitted to whom?
The DOT. It's they permit.
You've already submitted this to the DOT.
Yes. We've been working with them for the past 18 months.
Well,
First
okay.
on the tunnel, then the
Let me stop
bridge.
you there because I was always under the impression that you were doing a tunnel. And by the way, I also have to say the project is actually a beautiful project. The trees that they've done, I was out on a tour earlier in the year. They've done a really amazing job inside the property. And I was under the impression because, we're having a hard time with DOT. But guess what? We sit up here every meeting, and we always have a hard time with DOT. I've been working with DOT for 6 years to get a traffic signal on Canner Highway. Have not been able to get that traffic signal. So it's always difficult. So you're saying it was difficult to get a tunnel, so then you changed without anyone speaking to anyone about doing an overpass. I just discovered this almost 3 weeks ago. And I discovered it because I was just flipping through agenda items. And I pointed it out to Mr. Donaldson, and I asked him, and then, of course, you and I were in touch. That's when I realized that we were going to propose an overpass over Canner Highway.
I apologize. I should have came to you sooner, there's no doubt.
So if the DOT is dictating what's happening, why aren't they here to answer questions?
I don't recall DOT ever attending a private, application, but we do have the individual that met with DOT. We did bring him here so that he could share some of their comments.
I would love to hear them.
You want to introduce?
Commissioner, we'll be glad to bring that up. That gentleman's Randy Kropp, and I would like to ask him to come up. And I will qualify him also as an expert for your questions. Sir, can you please introduce yourself, Randy?
Randy Kropp, Conan Graham, contractor, Martin County resident.
And have you been sworn in, sir?
Yes.
And can you give us a brief background on your history, your education and work history?
47 years of doing bridge, water, marine construction in Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Broward, Dade, Indian River counties, from bridges to you name it, water control structures, to everything that, from Murphy Construction to now Conan Graham for the last 20 years, and been in Martin County as a resident for now 30 years, 31 years.
And can you identify the document that I'm showing you right now, sir?
Yes, sir, that's mine.
And that's your what?
Resume.
And is that an up-to-date resume?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to submit that as applicant's exhibit 2, and he's all yours, Commissioner.
I would just like you to walk us through, because as Mr. Crady just said, that you've been working on this for 16 months or so on this overpass. Tell us how, a little bit about the tunnel, working with DOT, their comments on the tunnel, and how we have gone to present an overpass.
Okay, so I am a member of Apogee. So I joined there. I'm a member of Jupiter Hills and Apogee, both. So I'm very kind of attached to what they do out there and want to make sure they do the right thing, because I'm paying the bill. So how we got there, I joined the club and found out they were going to do a tunnel, met with them, and I said, guys, first of all, the DOT and a tunnel, one of the only tunnels they have is the Kinney Tunnel down in Lauderdale, and they have more than enough problems with the Kinney Tunnel. So I meet with them and I talk about the tunnel, down in Lauderdale, met with Steve Braun, Secretary, Chris Karras, District 4, met with all of them, talked about this issue. A tunnel requires fire suppression systems, requires air ventilation systems, requires massive amounts of dirt to be moved to raise it, because we were going to have to build a pool, because that's what you're building here. You would have to put about an 8 to 10 foot slab down, as they said, 20 feet deep, to hold this thing from popping up on you. The DOT doesn't like something that's not normal. They hate it, as a matter of fact. And the reason they hate it even more now is because of what happened down at FIT. After they had that accident at FIT with the FIU. Oh, somebody must be after they had that accident down there, they went absolutely crazy on anything that was a design problem. So when I met with them
When did that occur?
5 years ago. Yeah, about 5 years ago. And they just don't like it. So they want things that are standard. So I met with them and we discussed the issue. You were going to have to raise the road about 6 or 7 feet. So Stacy, I got you. I want every tree left out there that's possible because I want to hide the golf course. Jupiter Hills did the same thing. And I have to compliment Sarah. I think it's the only time I've ever heard Ms. Hurd say, or Commissioner Hurd say, you know, people should do things like Jupiter Hills. We came and we donated land to do things. We had the teaching center done and things like that. It's the first time I've seen, I was afraid of the vote that you would give. And she voted for it because we were doing the right thing. And I think we've got to do the right thing in anything we do. If we don't, Apogee's wrong and I'm wrong. And I can't stand up here and tell you that what they're doing is wrong. So anyway, I met with them on the tunnel. It raised at 6 feet. It was going to destroy.
Met with DOT on the tunnel.
I met with DOT on the tunnel. I met with DOT on the tunnel and the bridge, both. We had a pre-meeting down there. They were, Randy, you know what you're getting into here. You're getting into just a big bag of worms because they have the Howard Kinney Tunnel under District 4's purview. And that tunnel is a mess down there.
Randy, were you on their consulting team when they presented the original site plan?
No,
Or
ma'am.
the PUD agreement?
No, ma'am.
So, but I assume that someone consulted with DOT on presenting a tunnel as part of the project.
I did. I went over that. When I first met with them, I said, guys, they would like to do the tunnel. Oops, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify, we did have a previous engineer that didn't meet with DOT, but we were led to believe that a tunnel was doable. I don't know if they met with DOT, but that engineer no
I
longer works.
understand, because we were led to believe also that a tunnel was doable. So what gives you the impression, did DOT tell you that they would permit a concrete overpass?
Yes. I mean, we've met with DOT several times and have developed plans after they just kind of poo-pooed the tunnel idea and said, you just really don't know what you're messing with. And they're right, because
DOT is already committed to approve this overpass.
they have. I've gotten a lease agreement from them, and I
Do you
should,
have any, why wouldn't we present that today if it's,
well, it's not done yet. It'll be done hopefully next week.
so is the DOT then going to dictate architectural standards?
No, ma'am. The only thing that the DOT will dictate is they like standards, but that doesn't mean that you can't adjust some architectural features. That is correct.
So what are their minimum specifications, DOT, since they're not here to answer the question, for an overpass over Canner Highway, which may or may not be in a widening plan down the road?
They require a minimum distance over top of the roadway, which they're raising Canner Highway eventually, quote, quote, they don't know when. So they require a 16-foot, 6-inch clearance. They require 155 minimum clearance from any obstruction to make sure that they have a 32-foot clearance from their right-of-way on each side of the white stripe for today and for the future. So that's why the bridge is 155 feet long.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks for the grilling.
Morris, I have a couple final questions.
Yes.
So we work with DOT every day up here, and it is not easy to get anything approved through there. So what would have been, I think, essential as a part of this change is that DOT would be here to say whether they are going to permit or not permit this. I think this is a complete game changer. It changes everything, the bridge. And I think it makes a statement too, that the applicant, while they were, it was part of rural lifestyle, and the main portion of rural lifestyle was to protect that corridor. I don't see how you do this with an overpass. It makes a statement. An overpass makes a statement, and the statement I think that it's making is that the applicant has shifted its focus off of what's best for our community. And this bridge has no imagination. If you've been working on this for eight 18 months, you've got a concrete overpass over a rural road. Why not make it something that's rural looking, has no imagination, it has no character? If that's what you're going to present, why not create something that is more architecturally fitting with the area?
Well, again, our goal was, it was trees versus tunnel. And, you know, we wanted to save the canopy trees at all costs. It wasn't possible with the tunnel. And so, you know, again, I've seen these types of bridges over rural roads, and the older they look, the more appropriate they look. I mean, I would even look at making this look like it's been there for 100 years.
How could we ensure that DOT would approve something like that, a rural-looking bridge?
I don't know which, this, we
Well,
know they'll approve this
I
one.
kind of heard this
Yeah.
described as, you know, and actually I had, by the way, I've spoken to many people in Indiantown that are not fans of driving down Canner Highway and seeing this. But I know that there's been a description of this myopic-looking bridge with landscaping and whatnot. How does that get done with DOT?
Are you talking about this bridge that's before you?
Who is going to make sure that the architectural standards of this bridge are in character with the Canner corridor? Because all the protections right now are on Bridge Road. All the public benefits are on Bridge Road. And Canner Highway is not protected in any way. So if the DOT is going to require a concrete overpass, and if this board approves a concrete overpass, who is going to be in charge of the architectural design of the bridge?
You know, this is the final design. I mean, the DOT bridge.
That is the final.
Yeah, the first bridge, they didn't even want the feature along well, what do you call those features along the top?
Just standard Jersey.
Yeah, they just wanted a concrete slab. We had to fight to even add those elements on top of the bridge.
So there is no more architectural control?
No.
That's what you're getting?
Now, you can paint it, or again, my position is it should look old, like it's been there a while. And there's some way we can make it look, you know, more seasoned. That's allowed, or I don't think it should be painted white or anything else. I think it's just, you know, the trees were the priority, and that, to me, maintains the rural character. I don't think the bridge detracts from the rural character as long as the trees are preserved. And we're doing not only preservation of trees in the right-of-way, but I showed you, we have buffers along both sides of this road, all the way up and down our frontage, that end a quarter mile away when you get past our project to the north. So I think it is consistent with the rural character, in my opinion, but that's all I have.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
And Morris? Just to clarify just a few, maybe what I heard Stacy asking, whose bridge will it be?
DOT's.
DOT will own the bridge.
Brett? Can you speak to that? Can you speak to that?
No, it'll be an Apogee-owned bridge. They have to supply a bond to the DOT for maintenance, and that bond has to be done every year, or the DOT can tell them to take it out. The DOT, you also have to supply a removal bond, which they have to give every year to the DOT. The bond will be for 2 years. It'll be renewed every 2 years, or the DOT can tell them to take it out.
Because I thought you said in your presentation that the approval of the easement was already granted.
It hasn't been granted. So right now, they're drawing up the easement as we speak today, and we pay Apogee, I say we, and it's probably we, but Apogee has to pay the DOT a fee for that easement.
Right, I just for the clarity purposes, because the next question, I think, answers hopefully a little bit of Stacy's question. So it's your bridge.
Yes,
You're
sir.
paying for it.
Yes, sir.
Apogee is. DOT will grant an easement, I would assume, that is consistent with their structural design standards. And all the other requirements, so the span distance, the height distance, all that will be built into the easement.
Yes, sir.
And so from DOT's perspective, I would imagine, the design of the bridge on the technical side has to meet the structural span requirements, the strength requirements of what, it's not just a golf cart bridge. It is something DOT standard.
Yes, sir, it is.
Right? So architecturally on the bridge, there may be some room for some enhancements or not, as long as it meets the structural engineering, capacity, load requirements, easement requirements, and so on.
Yes, sir, correct.
And I shouldn't even say this because I can imagine where this could go, but sort of like the new bridge in downtown Miami. I have to imagine that is not a standard necessarily FDOT bridge.
Yeah, that's a $150 million lawsuit right now between the engineers and but that's correct.
And $1 billion worth of construction.
And $1 billion worth of construction.
Okay, I just thought it was important, even for the public listening to this conversation, who controls what with what happens out there. For all intents and purposes, it's FDOT. It's their right-of-way. They have the final say over what happens over their right-of-way.
Yes, sir.
Are you getting, is it an aerial easement that you're getting? Is that what they're
It
calling?
isn't. So they're in between a lease agreement and an easement right now down at the law firms down there, the lawyers with the DOT.
Doesn't matter.
But we are getting a ground, because they want a ground easement for the part that's on their land and an aerial easement for the part that's flying over Canner. So to your comment about the looks, that railing that we proposed cost like 5 times as much as the original railing.
No
But-
question. And I'm sure for their standards, a Jersey barrier style edge would suffice their standards.
Oh, yeah.
Because they use them. I mean, that's, the Roosevelt Bridge is, for instance, right? Exactly. Okay, thank
And
you.
we built the big John Monahan Bridge too, so I know where that is in relation to this bridge because I built that one.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, do we have any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Campy?
I wanted to give my colleague the opportunity to go first. Would you like?
No, thanks.
Be positive. I appreciate what I've heard thus far. I have been involved in the conversations, and I remember when they talked about, the applicant talked about, well, we're going to have a bridge or a tunnel over Canner. This is several years ago, when the project was just being discussed as the whole entire project. I said, that's going to be a challenge. Just based on where we are, who we are, as a community, that was going to be a challenge. I think there's several misinterpretations. I know some because I've had conversations with residents and friends and family members about the concept. Most people, when they think of the word tunnel, they think you're driving down Canner Highway and everything is exactly the same grade, same elevation, and you're going to go underneath it and it will have no real effect whatsoever on the traveling public. Car, truck, boat, trailer, doesn't make a difference. But what really we're talking about is building a hill. The tunnel is nearly at grade, or 50-50, if you will, and I'm not a structural engineer, but I've seen cart tunnels. They have one at Martin Downs Country Club. The road, if you come in the entrance of Martin Downs, my parents live in the front there. You come up over a big incline and then you come over the other side because basically the carts are going underneath, almost at grade. In Florida, you can't dig down. Like you said, if you emptied your swimming pool, it would pop out of the ground. So the concept of a tunnel was there, but when I asked questions, like Commissioner Hetherington was, of the applicant and their consultants, the tunnel idea for me goes off the possibilities, because Mr. Crady mentioned it briefly in his presentation. You would have to build a bypass road. So now if you're the traveling public, you're going to drive towards this site, you're going to make sort of a turn, you know what a bypass, and you're going to leave the straight shot of Canner and now whatever direction, you're going to have to like bypass. So all of the landscaping, some people care about the landscaping, some people don't. All of that would have to go away. I'm just talking about traveling logistics, convenience of the traveling public, especially if you're driving an 18-wheeler or you're pulling a big boat on a trailer. or a school bus. You're going to have to make this big sort of curve and come around and come back around to get back to the road. That's during the construction. Then, once the tunnel, if it were to be left a tunnel, you're now driving on a relatively flat, level road. You're going to start to come up an incline. I don't know how far out from the actual tunnel, maybe half a mile. And now you're coming, and now your 18-wheeler's coming higher and higher and higher. So now, instead of being at what was normal grade of Canner, you're up 6 feet above the road. Now you're really up there, and then you're coming down the other side. To me, on a day-in, day-out basis, that's more of a noticeable change to the roadway landscape there. So that, to me, knocks the vision, in my mind, of a tunnel. So my next question to the consultants for the applicant was, why anything at all? Why not just have an entrance and, cross Canner Highway? It's not US 1. It's not 95 of the Turnpike. I mean, it's a busy road, but if I'm in a car and I'm at the property and I want to go onto the other side of the property across Canner, I don't understand why I can't just drive across. And I asked the applicant's consultants that, and they said FDOT doesn't allow it. And I get the concept. You don't want to have, maybe it's easy for most of us to sort of get across, but if someone doesn't do it properly, you're not going to have a traffic light, you're not going to have stop signs, you're not going to stop traffic. So the easiest of options and the least expensive option for the applicant would have been just to cross directly across. So now we're back to the overpass, the bridge. Now, to Commissioner Hetherington's point, there's a lot of different ways you could go that route. In my mind, it was the opposite. Instead of making it more ornate or more noticeable or more architecturally pleasing, I would do the opposite. I would make it less noticeable. I would make it where you're just passing over. It's a utility type roadway for the property owner to go from. Look, it's not like he's got 50 acres on one side of the road and he's going to his other 50. It's 1,217 acres. You're going from approximately 700 acres to your other 700 acres, or give or take. There's a color that Disney is famous for, Disney green. It's like disappearing green. I would keep this thing as simple as possible, and I would make it disappear. I would just landscape, and these guys already have shown slide after slide after slide of how they have stuck consistently to their landscaping mindset. Not only do they have the wherewithal to completely plant a ton of brand-new landscaping, they've gone out of their way to try to save legacy landscaping, as Mr. Crady called champion pine trees and champion oaks and all the rest of it. I've had the opportunity to visit the site, and they are very specific about, we could have gone this direction, but we would have had to take all these existing legacy trees out. We went different. So if you landscaped this up, and yes, for a while, it'll be a conversation. There was some misinformation. There was only be clearance of 12 feet. I think if you're meeting the height requirements of the Turnpike in 95, that basically covers all bases. Boats, construction, tractor trailers, 18-wheelers, everybody, that's not going to be an issue. I would make it where you'd have to come from one side to the other. It would be, like you said, very little inconvenience for the traveling public during the construction phase, very little inconvenience for the traveling public during its life. You're giving it the ability to widen, even though I can't imagine FDOT will widen Canner Highway to or towards Indiantown for decades. We sit on the MPO and we discuss like the 2050 plan, and I haven't heard anything about this until we discuss this. So in my opinion, I would make the span and make it disappear, and make it as, you're not looking for a bridges of Madison County here. We're not looking for the quote-unquote rural lifestyle bridge that would be a covered bridge. I'd make it a utilitarian thing where people that were driving back and forth from Indiantown or heading west into Martin County they wouldn't barely remember that this was something that they went under. The concept, like the expert was saying about a tunnel with lighting and ventilation and fire suppression, that's way more than is necessary. And the last thing I would say is that less than a quarter mile up the road is when you were at 96th Street and you're heading towards this location, there is a industrial park that's been built that is pretty close to the road, so it's not like you're out in the middle of nowhere anymore. My final point is, why would we even give the applicant this opportunity? Because they're utilizing 1,217 acres for golf course and open space, 95% open space, and even if you took the golf course out of that equation, 85% rural, natural, open space, protected forever, yet still remaining on the tax rolls. No houses. They're going to do this. We're looking at hopefully passing an opportunity for Martin County to have money to acquire additional lands. We didn't have to acquire these 1,200 acres, and as a matter of fact, they'll continue to pay us for a long, long time. So I'm not opposed to giving an applicant something that they've requested to make their business opportunity more efficient for them. I don't see it. I think there's always concern for something new, but I don't see this as elevating to the point where it would be a catastrophe in the least. Thank you, sir.
Okay. My comment is that I was a little taken back because I didn't know about it until the last minute. I did meet with the applicant, understand the logic. 1,750 feet on either side of the proposed tunnel. That's 3,500 feet on both sides of the road. That's 7,000 feet of natural, mostly native champion tree, 60-foot tall pine trees. Really not excited about disturbing that. You want to talk about changing the view, the rural, whatever of what we're all used to Cantor Highway being, that would do it. I agree with Commissioner Campy. I actually did that that Disney back of the house tour, and they talked about that green, and it is actually pretty amazing that once you paint something that particular shade of green, your eye just goes away. So I'm not going to dictate what color you paint your bridge, but Commissioner Heatherington.
Yep. I just want to take a little walk down memory lane here that we actually had someone here this morning, and they did a very nice job of presenting that they had started this with a PUD, and they did exactly what they promised on Bridge Road, and that was Discovery. That's how this whole rural lifestyle started, is that Discovery and in Bridge Road wanted to have a rural type development. And I pleaded with them to come in as a one-off comp plan amendment project. As it went on, the idea and the concept of rural lifestyle, and I feel like, Commissioner Jenkins, you might feel differently if this bridge was going across Bridge Road, where you went up and down, and I feel like a lot of constituents might feel differently if they had to drive under to Hope Sound, this bridge, every single day. And Commissioner Campy said, okay, well, it's not really a big deal. People from Western Martin County and Indiantown, they're going to get used to it. I beg to differ. We started this process with rural lifestyle. I advocated against doing it, saying, just bring your project off of Bridge Road forward. Bring that project and we will vote on it. But that was transmitted, rural lifestyle was transmitted by Commissioner Campy, Commissioner Jenkins, and Commissioner Smith.
I voted no on rural lifestyle.
Actually, you voted to transmit
let the
rural
state
lifestyle,
make a decision.
to send that to the state, and then that came back from the state. And after many, many changes, in the original rural lifestyle, it included everywhere in Martin County. You could build a rural lifestyle project on the Lake Okeechobee boundary. according to the original rural lifestyle. That's why I didn't support it, because I didn't like the concept of it. But I did, however, like the concept of Atlantic Fields and Discovery Atlantic Fields. And I have a feeling that if they had proposed building a bridge or an overpass across Bridge Road, that there would have been absolute mayhem from the residents of Hope Sound, and they would have never gotten anywhere. So fast forward, we come back, and they did a great job of changing it. The community worked on rural lifestyle very hard, including this applicant. And Commissioner Jenkins, you were a staunch supporter of that. You fought for that, and I was an absolute no on rural lifestyle. Have Discovery. I want to see that project built on Bridge Road. Send them back, come back, and have them put a project in on their own. You sat up here on this dais and you argued on behalf of your residents in Hope Sound, and you advocated that this was the right thing for them. I had no plan on supporting it. You were so passionate about your comments on behalf of your residents in Hope Sound, but that was the right thing for them, that I thought, if he's that passionate about his residents, then I'm going to support this, because what the assurances were in rural lifestyle is that we would have several opportunities to review things like this. We would have to approve the land use. We would have to then approve a PUD that would get transmitted, and it would get sent back. And we had assurances, and this was part of the process that we got to discuss PUDs when they come before us. And you changed my mind on the fact that you were advocating for your residents in Hope Sound. And right now, I don't feel like you're advocating for residents. I drove up and down this rural road every day to school. You know what? If there were residents in Bridge Road that advocated for that original project, they are not here now, and you completely had based on advocating for your residents, I supported that. And this is not advocating for our residents. I like the project. They should build the original tunnel. I don't care if it inconveniences drivers. They never presented the fact that it was going to inconvenience drivers for 18 months when they presented this project originally. I mean, please think of what you're doing. This is forever.
Okay, thanks for dragging me through the mud in my second to my last meeting. Anyway, Commissioner Campy.
With all due
No,
respect.
absolutely not. That wasn't respectful at all. Go ahead.
Okay. I think we're getting a little off track here. The concept, we can go down memory lane with yes, I voted to transmit the rural lifestyle amendment to allow our state agencies and other agencies to take a look at it. And then when it came back, I was never a fan of the rural lifestyle because, like you just said, I voted no on the rural lifestyle. Sir, with your hand gestures, appreciate it. The history, the record is very clear. The concept of the individual projects is what I voted on. I talked about the 3 Ps. I need to know the place, I need to know the project, I need to know the people. What, Commissioner Hetherington, with all due respect to you, I will grant you that, is vote on whether or not you think that the applicant should be allowed to build a bridge across Canner. Don't start going into the whole history of rural lifestyle and whatever. Your opinion is your opinion. To start, disparaging Commissioner Jenkins, that's how he and I see it. That is not necessary. Just the decision at hand is, do you believe that there should be a bridge over Canner Highway at this location, which is the applicant is asking for? The concept that you're willing to say that the tunnel is a great strategy, but the bridge is not, when the applicant and our staff is saying that the catastrophic effect to destroying and eliminating all of this existing landscaping is not a really the right strategy, in my opinion. What we have up here is 5 commissioners that bring a unique perspective and life experience to make decisions one at a time. That's why the agenda items are not all bundled together. If you disagree that this bridge shouldn't be built, you can make your comments and vote no. But to run the rest of us through, for some reason, I don't see it. I try very carefully, even with my colleague, Commissioner Hurd. I always try to understand her perspective. I might disagree with it, but I'm always trying to be as respectful of her opinion, even if it disagrees with mine. You and I have not had the occasion to have that happen as much. But that being said, the 5 of us will make a determination, and if 3 say yes, it's a yes. To somehow browbeat us into agreeing with you is not necessarily the way to go. Staff has made their opinion, the applicant comes forward, this is what they're talking about. We can get into the small details, but at one point, it needs to be, are we doing this or not? And to move that process along, I'll make a motion to accept staff's application to allow this to move forward, so that we don't have to get up here and beat each other up too much more.
Okay. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I'm not going to support the motion. This is classic urban sprawl. It's inconsistent and incompatible with all the adjacent agricultural uses. A helipad is not compatible in this area. A dormitory for 70 employees is not. There are 48 cottages so far proposed with 262 bedrooms, which leaves an average of 6,770 square feet each for a cottage that doesn't even count toward densities. There's a 19,000 square foot spa, a 30,000 square foot clubhouse, another 33,000 square foot clubhouse, a bridge instead of a tunnel. These uses are too incompatible with all the adjacent land uses.
Okay, any other questions? Any other public comment?
We didn't take any public comment yet.
Huh?
You didn't take any public comment yet.
I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Ms. Dubek.
Didn't put anything about the green in your motion.
And I found your other things, and I apologize. It was underneath all my papers.
You don't need to apologize. I know it was well intended. So, Geraldine Janko Dubé, I'm speaking on behalf of the Loxalucy Steering Committee. We had an opportunity to meet some time back with the developer of this project, and I don't know what is steering this 32-foot wide bridge at this time. But it appears to me there would be a huge expense connected with building a bridge of that size. And by having that kind of an expense, maybe there's other things that have to happen with the development to have to compensate for that cost. And I'm saying all of this because originally, when we met with the developer, we were under the impression that the tunnel, or whatever it was to accommodate, was for the purpose of pedestrians and golf carts. This bridge is apparently also for vehicle transportation, and that's a huge difference. And I don't know that the Loxalucy would have been favorable at the time if we had known that there would be a change from a golf cart pedestrian tunnel to now a vehicle bridge. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, with that, any other public comment? Seeing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 3-2. Commissioner Hurd and Heatherington dissenting. Okay, and we are going to take a 10-minute break. Be back in 10 minutes, please. All right, welcome back. We are going back to public hearing number 14. Apparently, we have some options. Take it away, Ms. Lovelady.
Good afternoon, Samantha Lovelady with the Martin County Growth Management Department, and this is Amy Eastman, the coastal engineer. And we do have 3 options for you regarding the Loxahatchee River. We do have policy 13.1D2 that is already in the plan, and it states that criteria for water quality. The county shall limit an increase in volume and degradation of water quality. The county shall work with the South Florida Water Management District and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to implement appropriate criteria in compliance with total maximum daily load, NPDES, and all other adopted state water quality requirements. So that's already in the plan. Or we can add policy 13.1D5, which is a reduction of discharges. In order to aid in the restoration of Martin County's major waterways, the county shall coordinate with the appropriate regulatory agencies to develop programs and policies to address sediment and nutrient loads in freshwater discharges. So,
Can you hold a minute?
sure,
I'm just going to
absolutely.
make a recommendation that we add policy 13.1D5.
Do you want to hear the third option before
Do
we?
you want to hear the third option?
Okay.
Okay. So, scrolling down, all the way at the end. So we do have a sub-element in here for the St. Lucie River. It starts,
And it's the same sub-element that she was quoting, but it was specifically for the St. Lucie River, whereas with that river estuary, we want to reduce freshwater, whereas the locks, we want to increase freshwater. So there's 2 different ways of looking at this. The one that you were mentioning to go ahead and approve, is similar to what we typically do for water quality anyways, is we don't want to see any degradation. We want to see pre versus post. It's already in there for all waterways within Martin County. This would give another option just to address Loxahatchee River, and then later, if we needed to add more goals and amendment, we could do this. So this is the third option.
so this is the third option, is adding a sub-element for the Loxahatchee River with a goal, objective, and a policy.
And you might want to scroll because the policy would be, yeah. So it's taking that same policy, but switching it more towards the Loxahatchee River versus what the St. Lucie is. But it's the same sort of wordage that she was mentioning, that the other policy was mentioning.
I kind of like this.
Sure, me
Yeah.
too.
Well, because it specifically calls out the Loxahatchee.
Loxahatchee River, and then we could later, as you know, you have a capital improvement about to occur with the Stormwater Master Plan. It's something that, as we're developing the Stormwater Master Plan, we could take a closer look at the locks and add its own sub-element and then be specific to the locks. So we can go ahead and do that.
Cool.
Move to add goal 13.1 and policy 13.1A.
And you want that as a sub-element, correct?
Yes, please.
All right.
Commissioner Smith.
Fries on the side.
And just for the sake of causing just a little bit more havoc,
Yes.
Indian River Lagoon,
We've got a sub-element.
We've got,
The Indian River Lagoon is within the St. Lucie estuary element. There's a lot of references to the lagoon and things that need to happen with the
so
lagoon
I'm
there.
just,
Yeah.
we're calling out specific things and whether it's combined or not, but I wouldn't do it at this point.
I wouldn't, because the portions of the locks that are in Martin County are just the Northwest Fork and the North Fork, so it's not like we have the whole entire river that goes out. We just have those 2 specific.
I appreciate it. I just calling out specific
Yes.
water bodies, and
Yes.
Indian River Lagoon should,
Okay. You done?
yeah, I'm done.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. Oh, we have any public comment on this? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Now that we need a motion for the actual thing, right? We left it out.
Transmit them all.
You just added that, or did you make it for the whole?
We
thing?
added it for the whole thing.
We added it for Chapter 13.
Yeah.
But that's not what you said.
Okay, so do you need a motion to transmit?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
To tra-
You didn't.
No, I just added language.
One second, I don't think,
I got it.
We didn't vote for it.
Go-
not for the whole thing.
Right, make a motion.
No, I just meant,
Commissioner Hurd's
transmit
motion was
chapter
to add this language into the chapter, but we did not vote on the chapter.
that's what I thought.
Oh, I
So
thought,
I'll make a motion to accept public hearing number 14 as staff's recommended with the initial language that Commissioner Hurd had previously motioned for.
You understand?
You want the sub-element, 13.6, yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Hurd. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
No, that's coming
You're-
next. Leave it there.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
we don't need any further motions on the ear amendments. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just meaning to
Yeah.
transmit the chapter.
So do you have anything to say? Apparently not.
Question, Commissioner Smith?
No.
Oh, so
Are
we,
you 100% clear on that?
yes, Elise Elder, Deputy County Attorney, we voted for each individual chapter to transmit it. So we're going to transmit it as one package, but you voted to transmit each one.
Seem to remember in the past, but that's okay. I must be wrong.
All righty.
Mr. Chair, before we move on, I think it's important that we acknowledge the work of our growth management staff, our legal staff, the other departments that participated, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. As everyone knows, the year in years past was monumental. This year, a lot of it was handled in-house by our staff with a little assistance from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and it was remarkable work, so I thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay,
Where's John Sennett?
he's coming. I don't know where. Okay. Department quasi judicial number 2. Request approval for the First Amendment to the Ranch Plan Unit Development Zoning Agreement S239-005, including a revised master site plan and revised phasing plan. And Mr. Sennett is going to handle this for us. And would everybody rise and be sworn in that's planning to testify?
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You turned in all the appropriate paperwork to the appropriate,
Yes, I'm sharing a copy of my work history and the agenda item to be filed as Exhibit 1.
okay, is there any interveners?
Interveners for this type of hearing.
Do we have any experts? Okay, Mr. Smith.
I do and all have been filed.
I do, and they've been filed.
I do, and they've been filed, I think. No, they've been filed, I don't know if I'm going
I don't, and they've been filed.
I don't, and they've been filed.
to. And that's it.
Yes, that's it for now.
Take it away.
I'm John Sennett, Senior Planner with Growth Management. This is a request by Urban Design Studio and Tyson Waters on behalf of JWA Ranch for approval of the First Amendment to the Ranch PUD zoning agreement, including a revised master site plan and revised phasing plan. The proposed amendment includes minor changes to the site configuration, a provision clarifying tree protection standards outside of designated preserve areas, and a provision regulating lake depth. The Ranch PUD consists of approximately 3,902 acres to be developed consistent with the rural lifestyle future land use. Included is a request for deferral of public facilities reservation. The Ranch PUD is located in central Martin County, near the intersection of Southwest Canner Highway and Southwest Bridge Road. The site includes approximately 3,460 acres on the south side of Canner Highway and approximately 442 acres on the north side of Canner Highway, adjacent to the St. Lucie Canal. The Ranch PUD zoning agreement was approved in April of this year. The site is located adjacent to the Three Lakes PUD, and it's also located adjacent to land having the Ag 20A zoning and the A2 agricultural zoning. The Ranch PUD will be developed consistent with the underlying rural lifestyle future land use designation. The proposed First Amendment to the Ranch PUD modifies Exhibit F special conditions to clarify tree protection standards outside of designated preserve areas, and to add a provision which would allow excavation of lakes to a depth of 40 feet in accordance with the requirements of Article 4, Division 8, Martin County Land Development Regulations. The revised master site plan and revised phasing plan included with this application reflect changes in the size and location of the lakes, reflect infrastructure adjustments, modifications to the phasing boundaries. With this application, there are no changes to the access points along Southwest Canter Highway or Bridge Road. There's no proposed increase in number of residential units, and there's no reduction in the total wetland or upland preserve area. The revised master site plan still provides approximately 3,536 acres of open space, or 91% of the site area. This is an example sheet from the proposed revised master site plan. It continues to reflect the uses which were approved as part of the original PUD agreement, including bona fide agriculture, 175 single-family lots, 2 18-hole golf courses, short course, range house and training center, golf practice facilities, clubhouse, golf cottages, recreational and accessory uses, residential multi-slip docking facility, maintenance facilities, and supporting infrastructure. This is an example sheet from the revised phasing plan, just reflecting the modifications to the phase boundaries. Pursuant to Article 10, Table 10.5F9, Martin County Land Development Regulations, review of this application is not required by the local planning agency. Development review staff have found the JWA Ranch application to comply with all applicable regulations and the comprehensive growth management plan as detailed in the staff report. Our staff recommendation is to move that the board receive and file the agenda item and its attachments, including the staff report as Exhibit 1, and move that the board approve the First Amendment to the Ranch PUD zoning agreement, including the revised master site plan and revised phasing plan. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, Article 4, Division 8, which is excavation and filling and mining, limits the depth of mining to 20 feet, and yet this proposes to excavate to a depth of 40 feet. Why the change?
Can we get that?
Sure.
There's been recent revisions to Article 4 regarding lake depth, and it's been approved now to go to 40 feet as long as the geotechnical work is approved.
Is it approved countywide, or is it approved on a case-by-case basis?
It's approved on a case-by-case basis. It's approved for mines, and through a PUD, you can do it for a site development where no fill leaves the site.
And what's been done, what kind of data analysis has been done in order to allow us to make an exception in this case?
That will be done through the final site plan approval process, which has just been submitted. So Public Works will determine compliance.
So you're making a recommendation for approval before the data analysis is presented to us?
We're asking for approval to allow it if it meets the criteria designated by Article 4.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Mr. Waters?
Excuse me, good afternoon, Tyson Waters on behalf of the applicant and the Ranch PUD. We are moving forward with our final site plan for Phase 1. And as is often the case, as you move forward with a detailed final site plan, you start knowing some cleanup that's necessary for the master site plan to become compatible with the final site plan. So that's this amendment in front of you today, is to try and clean those up. We're adjusting some phasing lines, reconfiguring and consolidating some lakes, and relocating some infrastructure and improvements a little bit again, so that we mirror the final site plan, which hopefully will be in front of you in the next few weeks. And with that, we're not changing intensity, we're not changing density, we're not changing uses, we're not changing the wetlands or upland preserve areas. And I think staff gave a very good overview presentation, and we support and agree with staff's recommendation and would ask for your approval as well. And we're here for any questions that you may have.
Commissioner Campy.
I hadn't even had the light on
I know,
yet.
I'm just quick.
Quite. A couple of things. One, I agree with what Mr. Waters said. By the way, it took 50 years for you to get here. Happy birthday to you, sir. 50th birthday. Shouldn't go unnoticed that you worked on your birthday. Good for you. That being said, I thought as staff was going through the presentation that it makes logical sense that as, you know, you can't submit a grand vision on day one and expect it to be exactly the same, you know, months and months or years later. It makes logical sense that as the project progresses, there would be some incremental changes necessary. So barring public comment, I would make a motion to accept staff's recommendation and continue my support for this project. I think this is a remarkable opportunity for Martin County as a whole to have this level of project, this size of project, this caliber of project in Martin County. I'm happy to have it.
Commissioner Heatherington.
I thought you would reiterate some of your public benefits. If I remember, would the applicant talk about the public benefits?
Tom McNicholas for the record, speaking on behalf of JWA Ranch. We are moving forward with the public benefits. I may miss a few of them because we have several. We've already been planning meetings with South Fork High School to do the off-site golf course for them to redo that. They have drainage issues. We're working through that with the school district now. We started on Banner Lake as of yesterday. So yesterday, Banner Lake is underway, and then IFAS as well is moving to this site. We've donated 20-plus acres to them, and that will be happening over the next phases and process over the next year or so. So IFAS, University of Florida, will be moving to the site with bona fide ag on the site and 91% open space. Other public benefits included $25 million in ad valorem a year. I don't want to leave that one off the table. It's quite significant, but those are some of the biggest public benefits. Some of them that are not in the PUD. Mr. Bax also donated about 120 trees to Hidden Oaks Middle School ball fields. Those were installed about 5 months ago. All of them have survived, and Hidden Oaks ball field has been better for it. So those are all moving on and going well.
You got a public comment?
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
That's not for this.
Do we have any public comment on this item?
Second.
No.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I'm not going to be supporting the motion. This project is wholly inside the Indian River Lagoon South SERP Natural Lands component footprint. It's extremely important for the health of our rivers. It's incompatible, it's inconsistent with all the surrounding agricultural uses, and it is classic urban sprawl.
Okay, with that, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Moving on to Department Number 1, Office of Management and Budget items which require board approval. Apparently, there's 3, and Ms. Stephanie Murley will be leading the charge.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Stephanie Murley here to present just 3 items on OMB today. Our first item is a permission to accept the Emergency Management Performance, or EMPG, grant. Our Emergency Management Division is requesting the acceptance of $67,274 to enhance planning projects, provide for technology, equipment, and supplies and programs to meet mandates, and also for funding for training and planning to enhance emergency management. This is a grant that we get annually, and there is no match required. A second item is permission to accept the Florida Department of Law Enforcement FDLE drone replacement program. Our Fire Rescue Department is requesting the acceptance of a grant award of $25,000 to cover the replacement cost of a drone previously purchased that needs to meet the minimum security standards for based on the Florida Administrative Code, and there is no match required for this grant either. And my last item is a permission to accept the Florida Department of State Division of Library and Information Services Annual State Aid to Libraries Grant. This is an annual grant we receive. The Library Department is requesting the acceptance of $76,270 for managing and coordinating free library services to Martin County residents. The funds will be used to upgrade Idea Lab equipment, supplement funds for temporary staff, and to continue funding a full-time library specialist position. There is no match required for this grant. And that is it.
Okay. Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. General Services, Department 3, permission to use construction management at-risk delivery method for the Larry Massing Building future expansion. Mr. Sean Donahue.
Thank you. Sean Donahue, General Services Director. Yeah, this is a request to use a CMAR, the CM at Risk method for this project. It's a perfect opportunity for the project since it has, it's an existing building. We'll be working in and around staff. We'll try to keep the building, we will keep the building open the entire time. The contractor can help us coordinate the logistics, the phasing, and everything with this project. So it's ideal for this type of delivery method, and this will be our first foray into the project, or into this method of construction.
Commissioner Heatherington.
Yes. But I was going to say that we've been talking so long about using this construction management at risk, and I'm happy to see it. And this is a very important building named after a very important iconic figure in Martin County. So I'll be happy to make a motion for this item.
And I would happy to second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Public Works, permission to use construction management at-risk delivery method for the Sand Dune Cafe building project. Mr. Zama.
Yes, good afternoon. George Zama, Public Works Deputy Director. CMAR is the theme today, this afternoon. We are also, Public Works is working with the Parks Department. We often team up on the major capital improvement projects, and Parks was currently working on the design of the Sand Dune Cafe. And due to the complexity of the project and this new delivery method, it makes sense to proceed with the construction management at risk. Just a little bit of a background, the Sand Dune Cafe, what's being proposed is a 3,000 square foot commercial kitchen and dining building, and along with access improvements and associated site work. Everyone's pretty familiar with the Seaside Cafe. This building would be upwards of 10 feet above the parking lot elevation, so there is some access improvements. It's right adjacent to the ocean. There's coastal construction line permitting, and the foundation can get pretty robust. So I think bringing in a contractor at this point in time can help value engineer the project and help steer us in the right direction. So with that, staff is pursuant to Section 17.5 of the Martin County Purchasing Manual. We are also requesting to the board's permission to use the construction management at-risk delivery method for this project, as well as adopt a revised CIP sheet to reflect funding for the project.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I think this is a terrific project. It's one of our finest assets on the beach. It's one of our most beloved assets on the beach. And it, like so many of our contracts, we didn't supervise the contract very well. And it was a facility that was run into the ground. So I'm delighted that we are going to once again refresh this terrific location.
I'll take that as a motion.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Now, star of the show. Department number 5, Water Quality Conditions and Project Updates, Mr. John Mayo.
I thought everybody was hanging around to watch my presentation.
We've been here all day waiting for you.
No left. I'm opening up a folder that, is it this one, Donna? Yep. I'm going to get this started because it takes just a second to load. So, thank you for the opportunity to give you an update on water quality efforts and projects that are upcoming and some of our accomplishments at Martin County. Again, my name is John Mayle. I am the Environmental Resource Administrator. Have the pleasure of working with an incredible team and representing them today and all the great work that they do. So normally I would spend some time contextualizing our problems. I can probably abbreviate that somewhat today. But basically, when human beings decide to live in paradise.
Could you open the whole thing before Commissioner Campy has a stroke? There we go.
For people that watch at home, when you have it smaller, it's hard to see what you're doing.
Donna took care of that.
Donna, thank you, Donna.
I wouldn't have known how to do it. So typically when people decide they want to live in paradise, it can be a challenge to not deplete that paradise that you live in. So to summarize it in a really obtuse way, humans move in, they need roofs, they need transportation, they eat, so they need food, and they need to deal with the waste from that. All of those things are opportunities to either deplete paradise or to balance our enjoyment of it with smart and efficient ways of managing that. One of our major concerns in every region where you have people living on the landscape, you've got to have responsible management to make sure that you keep that in balance. We have the unique misfortune of having to not only deal with our own, but to have to deal with lake discharges that come from other basins. So that problem is a problem we commonly talk about. I want to feature a new tool that we have to help us with this issue. And Donna, if you could help me get to the video part of this. I'm asking for technological challenges here. I think it's going to work. So what you're looking at is a graphic illustration of the output of a model that we worked with one of our partners to create. What this does is it takes the salinity measuring from 27 different salinity meters throughout the river estuary and the nearshore reef, and it created a model so that we could turn out on and off certain freshwater inflows. We could set those at different levels. We could run this thing, and it would tell us the inundation of fresh water into the St. Lucie River and estuary lagoon and even on the nearshore reef. I'll just run it. This is this is an actual discharge event from Lake Okeechobee in March of this year. This is a 2-week period, and what you see is the yellow is the fresh water coming from the South Fork or from the St. Lucie Canal. The blue is ocean water, and everything in between is some gradient of salinity. You can see where this is about a 1,500 cubic foot per second lake discharge with no local basin runoff, so it's a great example of how the lake in and of itself impacts our ecology here. So you can see how the yellow kind of moves its way down. Actually, no, this is the wrong one. I'm sorry. This is actually showing the recovery. There's another one in that folder, Donna. I apologize for the awkwardness of this. I tried to do something cool, and that was probably outside my wheelhouse. Here it is. So this is the discharge event. So it really demonstrates graphically how the salinity from the fresh water moves through the river and estuary, and how even with tide cycles that you kind of see that surging from the inlet, it doesn't really do much to exchange that water up into the St. Lucie River. You get some exchange right in the inlet and going north in the lagoon, but it doesn't do much to exchange down up into the middle estuary where we have salinity issues. I don't have to keep running that. Let me switch back to this, and I'm going to go full screen. Am I doing this right, Donna? Oh, man, that's smart. So we monitor the salinity because it's a great proxy. It's easy to measure. It mixes very well with the water, and you get a really consistent result. But salinity is not the only thing we're concerned about. It's something we're concerned about because it impacts, it creates harmful and mortal situations for the oyster beds and for the seagrass and even the coral reef that are even probably the most sensitive to salinity changes. But it's a good proxy for other things we're concerned about, like nitrogen, phosphorus, turbidity. And then this picture here, this is from that event that we just showed the graphic modeling of. You can see the dark water from the St. Lucie River as it contrasts with the Indian River Lagoon water that's much cleaner. And then in the next photo, you can see where the plume, again, this is just lake water. There's no basin runoff during this time period, how it blankets and chokes out the nearshore Florida Reef Tract. We are the proud hosts of the northern terminus of that. There's some obvious challenges with having turbidity in and of itself. All of these ecosystems depend on photosynthesis or sunlight penetration through the water, and this obviously it doesn't help that. Not to mention all the other pollutants that come with it. So that's the lake discharges. Who cares? I don't have to probably preach to the choir about the value of water quality and preserving our delicate and incredibly valuable ecosystems in Martin County. But just as a reminder, we have everything from nearshore coral reef to Lake Okeechobee, some native uplands that are excellent examples of the remnant domain from South Florida's sand pines and flatwoods. We have the most biodiverse estuary in America. We have the Loxahatchee River, Commissioner Jenkins, that is a federally designated wild and scenic river. It's got incredible ecological value, economic value, quality of life value, and everything in between. And I don't think there's a lot of places on Earth that can claim the value that we have in our natural resources. So again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but there may be some folks tuned in that are new to this. So how has Martin County done its part in addressing these issues? I'm proud to say that that this board and this county, that citizens have set a standard for world-class protection of their resources. Nobody is satisfied with where we're at, but what we have accomplished is remarkable. We've built 43 stormwater treatment projects to date. A stormwater treatment area is when we go into a neighborhood that was built before our current drainage standards. A lot of times they were built on ag drainage, so the drainage really isn't sufficient and it doesn't do anything to help with water quality. And the county finds grant dollars, we design projects and build things to retrofit that drainage, to improve the conveyance, to store the water, and to provide water quality treatment before it gets to our surface waters. Those projects have reduced over 70,000 pounds of nitrogen and 15,000 pounds of phosphorus. And I'm proud to tell you today that 2 weeks ago, and maybe just a little bit more than 2 weeks ago, we sent in our annual report for the Basin Management Action Plan to the DEP, and we, for the first time, were able to articulate that we've met 100% of our load allocation reductions for Martin County as a stakeholder. Does that mean we're done? There's a few more slides here, so the short of that is no. We've also spent over $150 million, largely with state and federal grants. At least 50% of that was from state and federal grants to complete these projects and to acquire conservation land. We participated in the acquisition of over 70,000 acres of conservation land, largely in western Martin County, that provides not only does it provide aquifer recharge, it provides the natural area and storage and treatment of rainfall and stormwater. It also keeps the problem from getting worse and forcing us to do other projects to address those new concerns. So what else have we done? This board, a few years ago, directed staff to develop an integrated pest management plan, which is a really deliberate and intentional way for staff to develop ways to use herbicides and pesticides in the most responsible way possible, to meet the objectives of our level of service, but also to reduce the amount of pollutants to the water to as little as possible and to use the most responsible chemicals. We have a fertilizer ordinance that's been longstanding and well-known. We've trained in partnership with UF of thousands of local citizens in what our water issues are and how they can be part of the solution as homeowners and as people who live on the landscape. My number there on septic to sewers is not quite right. It kind of split the difference. There's 6,000 septic to sewer conversions that have been made available with infrastructure, thanks to the board's commitment to that program. And I'm told as of today, about 3,000 connections have been made to that. The remaining 4,000 units that were identified in the Connect to Protect plan are in some stage of design, permitting, funding, and construction. We're well on our way to achieving that really honorable objective. This board has taken a very active role in advocacy at the state and federal table and making sure that our interests were protected, making sure that regional projects that will help solve these problems are funded, that they're passed in WRDA bills. This board has been at the table for state policy to make sure that policies that could be harmful to the objectives of cleaning our water were avoided and policies that were needed were enacted. And this board gave us incredible support for your staff in the LOSUM process, which, as you all know, August 12th, we were pleased to have a record of decision filed with the Corps of Engineers, and we now operate under the LOSUM schedule. That, I think the easiest way to celebrate that is we most certainly, if you ask anybody involved, including the colonel or the executive director of Water Management District, had we been operating under LORS in the traditional sense, we most certainly would have had another lost summer in 2024. And nobody's talking about it because it didn't happen. I think sometimes success is silent. So if I could preach for just a second on that, we really do have something to celebrate in LOSUM. It will substantially reduce discharges. When we get on calls now with the Corps of Engineers on a weekly basis to talk about current conditions and make recommendations, they don't even have the option to consider sending water to the St. Lucie River unless it gets to 17 feet or more, depending on the time of year. Huge success without spending a dollar on infrastructure. So what else is your staff working on? Here's a list of projects that are either in some stage of construction, design, or permitting. The first one that you're probably going to see some actual construction work on is East Fork Creek Phase 2. This project is one we've been working on since I've been at the county. It was East Fork Creek Phase 1. Some of the challenges that this project had forced it to kind of become East Fork Phase 2. We did another part of this thing first. We finished last year. This one's now ready to go. We've got a construction contract awarded. We're working out some of the final details, and that should be under construction hopefully next month. It involves about a 700-foot linear lake, but it's in an old DOT right-of-way that they gave to us to build this project. It's between Mariner Sands and Heritage Ridge, and then there's a shallow man-made wetland that will further polish the water before it goes through Mariner Sands and then into the Manatee Pocket. Again, that project starts here very shortly. The next project you'll actually see some construction on probably this dry season is the Manatee Pocket. You guys are probably familiar with this project because you approved about a dozen different board items on some really complicated land deals that we had to get through to get this one done. The land was at no cost to the county, and the project has substantial grant funding in it. And this project is going to involve a small pond with a larger wetland restoration on the tailwater. It's going to look great. It's maximizing a very small area to provide some water quality treatment right at the tailwater of this creek that empties into Manatee Pocket. Another project we're working on in design phase, this is kind of an exciting one where it's a good example of how the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We have an existing stormwater treatment area just north of the fire station on Canner by Indian Street, and adjacent to it is a dry detention cell that was built as part of the Indian Street Bridge project. That dry detention cell is underutilized in its current form. We are designing a project where we would combine those two. We would connect them together, and we'd do some excavation in the dry detention, make that a wet cell, and we'd make some improvements to the existing stormwater treatment area to increase the capacity there and the nutrient reduction benefits. Another exciting aspect of this project that we're eager to see this will be our first channel enhancement project. So the half a mile of ditch that is immediately upstream of Coral Gardens is going to be the first project where we implement some innovative channel enhancement. It'll turn the ditch into more of a natural stream function. It should reduce maintenance. It should increase the nutrient reduction just in the conveyance system. We don't have to acquire any land, falls within the footprint. It was one of the low-hanging fruits for that project, for that concept.
John?
Yes, sir.
Just pause there for 1 second. For those of you who remember this project when it started, there was a March storm that we had where we got like 10 inches in the morning, and there was like 3 feet of water out on Cantor, like instantaneously. And what we discovered with that, I think, post that storm, was that this whole system had not been maintained pre even the first phase of this. And I know that led to a lot of this connection and other connections to it. And it's just interesting to see now this is like the third iteration of making it better, but this is a really cool project that today doesn't do what it did after we had that storm, which was really something. And I drove through it that day. It was amazing, like in 3 hours, how much water there was in there.
That the one we had all the flower farm, or the, not the flower farm, but we had all the pots from the landscape nursery. Yeah, they were all strewn out. The other project too before this, the Mariner Sands, that one also had problems in the past. We've gone through several iterations there. We had some homes flooded due to DOT failing to maintain the ditch, and that was the first time I remember we had an excavator in the bottom of the ditch. DOT had attempted with a crew. They had like 12 people out there trying to clear the ditch. And we had one of our operators get in there, and in about 30 minutes, he did what they did in a day. So we sent him packing and finished the job for him.
Good times, good times.
It was good times, actually. It was impressive. Again, we showed him how to get it done.
You and all your engineering friends around the room were all excited.
Thank you for that point, Commissioner Smith. And actually, that's it reminds me that in all of these projects, we have, multiple benefit purposes in them that we try to balance. And our primary inspiration is water quality, but we always try to improve some conveyance, provide some additional level of service and flood protection, and then the aesthetic benefit. These tend to be park-like features that when people hear that someone's going to build a stormwater treatment area in their neighborhood, they don't tend to get excited. But when they see them, they're like, oh, that's what this is? Why didn't you tell us it was a park? So all those things help to make it easier to build additional ones. In fact, I regularly get contacts from realtors asking where we're building the next ones. I don't know why, but they do. This is a really cool project that I think only Mike Houston would try to take on. Mike had identified that there was an old cypress floodplain on a tributary to the North Fork of the Loxahatchee that was transitioning and had dried out from channelization of the Cypress Creek, and had identified really that the SERP projects that would be being built upstream of that would probably attenuate flows and maybe exacerbate the dehydrating of this floodplain. And so he's been working with Tetra Tech to design a project to restore this. It's going to involve probably a really long, low head weir system that will stage some water above ground during high flow events, but also it'll stage the water table, which cypress sometimes don't care so much if they get it from below the ground or above the ground, and we hope to sustain a really historic and beautiful cypress floodplain through that. This project is an interesting one. It's very conceptual at this point. It involves trying to address a large phosphorus loading that comes from Hog Creek. That's always been one of our largest phosphorus contributors to the St. Lucie River. And the Map Creek, it flows through the northern part of this. That has some opportunities for us to achieve some water quality benefits as well. So we have been for a couple of years looking at, is there a way for us to engineer a solution that meets both those needs, or what are some innovative ways we could try to address this? There's not a lot of contour back here, so maintaining the level of service on flood protection while doing some water quality projects, it's an engineering challenge, and so we're kind of slow walking this. There's some exciting ideas that are being kicked around. There's one that I'm really looking forward to bringing to you in the near future. That could be a couple $1 million project where we have very little of county money involved, and we achieve several really cool benefits. That I'm going to keep my powder dry on that one for a second. Kitchen Creek Eastern Flowway is another one that's just really complicated. We discovered another Cypress floodplain that was transitioning because it wasn't getting adequate water, and at the same time we knew that another portion of this, the Central Flowway, had way too much water. It was a very flashy system, so we're trying to provide some relief to the Central Flowway while getting the water where it needs to go. We've engineered kind of a project for that, but we're looking for ways to maximize the benefits and seeing if there's other objectives we can achieve at the same time before we bring that one to full design.
I'll add that we have 20 acres that we need to acquire to make that work. That is a very complicated acquisition that we could use some outside help. The county,
Get it done in the next 2 weeks.
that's not going to get done. I mean, we've been working on this for 4 years, so. But anyway, just throwing it out there for our friends that help us acquire environmentally valuable land for the county. Commissioner Smith.
And it's one of my favorite projects, and it goes back to its beginning, and it would be remiss, at least if we're going to remind folks of how we got from A to B to C. This goes back to Tilios and the mulch plant that used to be on that property, and what it took to get us from mulch plant to Kitchen Creek restoration. It was a Herculean effort, and it just continues on today, Harold. But the project, all these projects have their own story and their own life. But I think this, John, I don't know how many more slides you have. Do you know how many?
Just a couple.
I think you ought to start off every commission meeting with this presentation, because it would explain a lot to residents that come up and perhaps suggest that we don't do enough. I don't know of too many more counties that could pull off what you all pull off, so.
At the beginning of the meeting.
At the beginning of the meeting, like before public comment, but anyway, go ahead.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. Yeah, the Kitchen Creek before and after is pretty remarkable. That's a project the county should be very proud of, and hopefully we were able to keep moving downstream with that one and provide additional benefits. I've been here 6 years. I don't think we've done an easy one yet, Chair. So, we're not surprised that it's hard, and we're not dissuaded by it. This was a really exciting one. This is largely in the monitoring stage now. We decided a couple of years ago that it was time to start developing the science of estuary restoration. You've heard the adage that a watched pot never boils. Do I have that right? And if you sit there and stare at it, you can start to be convinced that it's never going to boil. But if you have a thermometer in the pot and you can see that the temperature is rising, you can see there's a trajectory that, yeah, actually this is probably going to boil. We have the privilege of watching things like Everglades restoration and being closely attuned to the project progress and all the things that are happening at the state level and with FDACs and local contributions to water quality. We get to look at the thermometer and we see that we're going to get there. So we're probably a little more hopeful than most that don't have the thermometer to watch. And to that end, it's your ERD's conviction that we don't want to be figuring this out when we're done with the water quality effort. We want to know how to do it and be running. And so we were able to tap into several different grant sources to do a whole menagerie of different approaches to learning as much as we can from getting 15 acres of seagrass planting for free through a grant from the DEP. That was that's the blunt force planting approach, and we'll just keep an eye on it, and we'll see which ones do better, which areas do better. We'll learn things about what the habitat requirements are from how those perform. We did a grant with FWC to build an industrialized version of FOS's back-of-house nursery so that we would have the nursery stock when we get into full estuary restoration mode. We wouldn't want to be looking around for that seagrass when we're ready to put it in the ground. And then we did a whole bunch of small experiments with an EPA grant where a couple of them, for example, where we were removing Lingbia from seagrass meadows to see how those meadows responded. We've experimented with some different technologies. We've been out there removing it by hand, which isn't a terribly efficient way, but it gives us a benchmark to see how that seagrass responds. One of the things we've noticed as we've spent more time looking at our seagrass meadows is that wherever we have them, we have this filamentous bacteria that we call Lingbia, and trying to understand the relationship that has and how damaging it is. And so there's been a bunch of different experiments with that. And analyzing it in the lab, trying to do some source tracking of the nutrients that feed it. But one of the ones that's pretty exciting today, if this meeting were tomorrow, I probably would have brought my microscope and hooked it up. Donna would have really had a headache on this one, and showed you some, can I say clam porn? We worked with the Florida Shellfish Company at FOS, and we collected some native clam species that live in the soil. And we're hearing and beginning to believe that where the real estuary restoration science is getting the soil habitat right. And so we discovered that there's a clam that has this symbiotic bacteria that helps to digest hydrogen sulfide, which is a consequence of hypoxia, where you have low DO levels in the seagrass meadows. And we decided maybe it'd be a good idea to propagate these things, farm raise them, and introduce them with our restoration efforts. And tomorrow, we will be taking a group out to FOS, and they'll be in real time showing us how that works. So the contractor out there has got kind of refined the propagation method, and he's been successfully. It sounds like in vitro fertilization to me. They take some of the sperm, some of the eggs from the males and females, and mix together, and they're growing new clams that will be available to us to throw out in the soil as an amendment to help get the habitat right for those seagrass meadows. It's a really nerdy thing, but I think it's pretty cool. We also are finalizing a grant agreement that we've been awarded from EPA to expand our water quality monitoring program fivefold. The board gives us $100,000 a year to work with, and we are going to ramp it up a little bit with an extra $500,000 from the EPA to answer some questions that we've been challenged to answer and that nobody really else has answered for us. And so we're partnering with some universities and some NGOs to do some sediment sampling in our STAs in the river and canals, to do some additional source tracking, to understand better how the land use changes have happened over the years in the county, and to give us more information about targeting new projects so that we make the right decisions about where to spend future dollars on water quality improvement efforts. And I saved this for last. It is certainly not least, and it's something I think that we're just not we're hearing enough about, and that's progress on Everglades restoration. You've probably heard that we're spending more than we ever have. Projects are moving forward. You've seen Drew Bartlett cutting ribbons and turning shovels. We have been significant beneficiaries of progress in this, much more so than other areas. I think it's largely attributed to the board's active advocacy and our county's involvement in these issues, to the extent that we've reached in our own pockets to help make these things happen. And to that end, the Indian River Lagoon South component of SERP, which is a suite of projects that helps to address the regional water storage and treatment that helps the St. Lucie River and Indian River Lagoon. every one of those things is in some stage of construction. All the infrastructure projects. A couple of weeks ago, the Corps of Engineers awarded 2 noteworthy contracts. They were funded through the bipartisan infrastructure bill from a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. There was $1 billion infused into SERP from a federal funding source that was outside of their normal budget, which right now is running $450 million a year. That $1 billion was allocated to projects that they could move forward. I'm going to highlight 2 of those. One of them is the SEP EAA A2 reservoir, or the EAA reservoir as we know it. $3 billion was awarded on a contract to build the EAA reservoir a couple of weeks ago. It's the single largest contract that Jacksonville has ever awarded. It's the largest contract in America for the Corps of Engineers this year. And it builds the reservoir that's going to store lots of lake water that will relieve discharges significantly for us. Another contract that's just as exciting, if you ask me, is they awarded the construction contract for the C-23-24 North Reservoir, which is a storage reservoir in western St. Lucie County that will store 30,000 acre-feet of water. It will feed water to the C-23-24 stormwater treatment area that the Corps is finishing up next year. It's been under construction for a couple of years. And then if you remember last year, the South Florida Water Management District, in an effort to keep up with the feds in their spending in their cost share agreement, took over construction of the C-23-24 South Reservoir, which is another 30,000 acre-feet of storage, and that contract has been awarded for construction. So every reservoir, including the C-25, and every STA in the IRL South suite of projects is in construction. It's going to take a couple of years, but they're in construction and they're not going to stop. They've been funded, and we're going to realize the benefits from that. It's really a remarkable thing, and to think that the EAA reservoir is funded for construction is remarkable. And then some of you will remember that in the IRL South project implementation report, it included a thing called natural lands. That identified the potential for 90,000 acres of natural area storage and treatment. 2 years ago, in the WRDA bill, Congress authorized a post-authorization change report that raised the cost limits because originally it was passed in 2007. Things cost a little bit more now. That also codified the natural lands and the estuary restoration elements of IRL South. That project partnership agreement is in the final stages of being worked out between the district and the Corps of Engineers. It looks like the Corps of Engineers will probably take the 8 million cubic yard muck removal project for the St. Lucie River and estuary, and the state will end up with on the cost share agreement, the natural lands component. It's timely. Should the voters approve our conservation sales tax initiative, we would be able to leverage heavily that program and provide seed dollars that I would expect we would have a significant partnership with the state in, because it also leverages those federal dollars in the cost share. And like I said, we talk about Everglades restoration. I think we sometimes get frustrated with the lack of progress. It truly is an example where we don't really realize the benefits until it's complete. IRL South is a great example of that. All of the projects we've been building have been dealing with the issues, the watershed challenges. Once those are fixed, then you can go into the estuary and actually do the restoration. And that's when we'll see the benefit. It's like you don't serve a cake before you've got it frosted, right? It doesn't taste very good when you're just putting the ingredients together. But you serve the thing once it's frosted, and the 8 million cubic yards of muck removal is really the frosting on our cake. And that's when, if we stay the course, we should be realizing those benefits sooner than later. I think that's all I have.
Commissioner Smith.
This isn't going to sound right, but I'm going to say it because it's really, it's very positive. 24 years ago when I started doing this, there was a guy here named Gary and Paul, or two guys here named Gary and Paul. And they came to us and really created the vision for what you just saw. They carried it out for I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years or so, whatever that was. But they were the seed work for creating this amazing slew of projects that John just laid out. But as good as they were, John, you have elevated this stuff to a whole nother game. And, we talk about our staff all the time and the amazing work they do. It is remarkable what you and your team have pulled off and are continuing to do. Don't ever leave. That would be really terrible for us. Keep doing what you're doing. It is, until the last maybe month or two with the rains we've had, it was the best I think the lagoon, at least up in Jensen, has looked in the 30 years I've been there. And I'm sure the rest of you have seen other parts of your neighborhood look really super too. So I tell everybody now, and it is hard for people to see this stuff because some of the stuff is so far away or so hard to like put your hands on. You can't see it. But I'd say not only do we see the horizon, but we are really close to the horizon of getting this stuff done. And so great work, John. Fantastic presentation. Keep doing it.
Come back and do it again soon, in all seriousness, and do it in the morning, so all the people that are in the chambers can hear it.
Yeah, true.
I kind of like to end on a happy note.
Yeah, but it would set the tone for the rest of the meeting. That would
This
be,
morning, we had 50 or 60 people in here who would have enjoyed this presentation. And I can't believe you've only been here for 6 years, John. You've done a remarkable job in 6 years. And your predecessors were all really, really special, too. So you have all, Paul and Gary and Deb, they were all huge shoes to fill, and you did it.
I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you and Mike, I really have.
this isn't a going away song for you.
No,
It's
it's
just
not.
Yeah.
it's like,
Okay,
Do you still have your no-compete contract in place?
I do.
You?
I think he's holding it.
all right.
Someday when he lays it on my desk, I know it's been enough.
Well, we have reached the end of our agenda, I believe. And we have one public comment form. Mr. Joe Cosgrove.
There he is.
I don't even know if I'm in the right place.
We are about to find out.
I have a question, maybe more than anything, about safety. I happen to be a bicyclist. I ride a lot the streets, sidewalks of the city and the county. And it's been my experience in the last several years, there seems to be more motorized vehicles on the sidewalks than there are human-powered pedestrians and bicycles as such. I almost got run over the other night by a motorized scooter in the middle of the night with no light on it. I had lights and stuff, but Mike, I don't know if I'm in the right place. I've been to the sheriff, I've spoken to the corporal in the traffic division, apprised them of the situation. I've spoken to officers on the street, not the city, but in the county offices. And I know there's a lot more serious problems. I happen to be a victim. I've been run over on my bicycle before, and I lived in Port St. Lucie. And I don't want to get run over again if I can help it. The situation is getting to be biblical proportions. I see at least 50% of the vehicles on the sidewalks are motorized. We're like almost in a minority. And they're prohibited according to Florida statute. And I was just hoping if there was some way, somehow this could be brought to the law enforcement agencies through the commission, maybe to try to, if possible, I know they have more important things to do. However, safety to me is a big thing too, especially when it's mine. So with that being said, that's why I'm here. One of the reasons. Another reason is there's been a lot of construction up and down Route 1. They've tore up the sidewalks, and I'm putting conduit underneath and such. And many places where they would put, I call them manhole covers. They're probably inspection covers. They're more of a rectangular, probably a vinyl top. They dig a hole, they stick it in the ground. I guess it's where they make connections or something. Well, what happens when they leave that construction site, the hole they put in is usually bigger than the item they put in it. So it leaves a gap all the way around it, which a foot can go in, a bicycle tire. Back in the summertime, there was a major problem at the corner of Route 1 in Monterey, which the city did have someone come out and repair, that type of issue. When that is like, I reported 3 or 4 of them that are in that situation. I've been in contact with the city and a private contractor that's supposed to make these, they're supposed to put asphalt in there to fill in those gaps till they can put concrete. But in the heat and in the summer and such, that asphalt, what would you call it? It
Melts.
sinks down, it goes down, so you have a.
Sir, your time is up.
All right.
Mr. Campy's got you.
In regards to the motorized vehicles, I completely agree with you. What's happening when they're in the road, if you're driving a car and you look to your left and you see someone on a bicycle, you, as a seasoned, experienced driver, you sort of have an understanding of how long it would take that bike to get to you, except if it's an electric bike and he's doing 20, 25 miles an hour. But in terms of them riding on the sidewalk, I'd like to, I'm sure all 5 of us could tell the same story, maybe we can send a letter from the commission to the sheriff's office reiterating that, because this gentleman is exactly right. In Palm City on Map Road, it is every single day, kids and grown-ups, they're riding stand-up scooters that are electric, that are very fast. They're riding like I saw a sheriff's deputy pull over someone on Martin Highway. It was 2 teenage kids, young teenage, riding a go-kart in the road on Martin Highway. And she had pulled him over, because at first I'm like, who's she pulling over? I don't see anything. And then as I got closer, in front of her vehicle was 2 kids in a go-kart, like a little low, buzzy, those things are super fast. And right by the patio, a couple of, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was talking to some people and I just stepped backward. I could hear it because it had like a loud muffler on it. But had I taken an extra step back, he would have absolutely run me over on the sidewalk. So I completely agree with you, sir. And then in regards to the rim around it, that's our head of Public Works right there, Mr. Gordon. He said a majority of that is the city of Stewart, potentially, so we'll know to do that on ours, but you'll probably have to speak to somebody at the city of Stewart for some of those as well.
Okay.
But in terms of your first comment, we'll send a letter from the 5 of us to the sheriff to say, you're not the only one. So thank you for coming. You did come to the right place.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gary Eller.
Call him the ice cream man.
You're running out of time
To get that, right? He'll see on the
We're
screen.
good with that, and I appreciate everything you've done, sir. Gary Erler, for the record, Port Salerno. Sorry I didn't speak at 9:05, and I waited till the end. Something that's come up in our NAC meeting was the design standards that are throughout they're going through all the NACs and into the CRAs. The one thing that I've noticed attending a couple NAC meetings, it's a 48-page report. When they presented it to the NAC, a lot of the text was left out of it. I guess what examples I'm trying to make is page 14, 18, 26, 30, 39, 43, and 46, and I probably missed 1 or 2, all list design standards from 1 to 4 stories. It's 1 to 3 stories, 40-foot max. I know as well as you do, someone will challenge that. It'll be a man buy land type deal. And we're going to have 4 stories in our CRAs. If it's not taken out of the text before you approve the design standards whenever it comes back. So I ask you to please look at that. It's also my understanding that the county's looking to remove the appeal process for the design standards. Normally, you go before the NAC and then the CRA, and then you guys say, yeah, you can go ahead and do that, whether it's a bigger structure or anything exceeding 450 square feet. You know, you want to put a metal building, you have whatever it is, and they're going to take away that appeal process inside the CRA. I hope that never goes away.
I don't think anybody knows anything about that. Our lawyer.
Well, it was mentioned at Port Salernos. Once the design standards go in.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I understand. It's public knowledge that this commission is in the favor of a train station. Just thought of this morning as I was watching. Like I said, I couldn't make 9:05. I made sure I came back. What was started as an update on Brightline became an RFP and now applying for grants. So my question to you as a commission is, what is your cap? Is it still the 15 million minus the grants? I mean, if the county's on the hook by itself, no matter where it is, there's still a cost factor. So what is the cap? And if there is, please transmit that to the public, since it went from an update to an RFP, applying for grants, not on the agenda. The public feels it's already blowing up. Social media, I could tell you. It's already blowing up. You know, county looking for Brightline. My 3 minutes is up. I
Yes, sir.
understand.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, off the record, thank you all for what you've done for Port Salerno. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Smith?
I'm done.
There is something for me. I did not pull this because I pulled one already for my whole career. But on the consent agenda was the approval of the interlocal agreement with Jupiter Island SMRU for the potable water project I've been working on for quite a while in the Petway community. I just wanted to publicly thank Commissioner Fields, Marshall Fields, for helping me drag this. Field?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've been calling him that for quite a while. Oops. Anyway, he helped me drag it across the finish line, and John Schneider and our legislators got us at least half of the money we were looking for, and Stuart Trent has been wonderful, and we are going to begin that project on Kingsway, a portion of that project on Kingsway, which is the easiest part of it. That should be done by Christmas. And I keep bringing this up. If you literally looked at the water that's coming out of the faucet in these people's homes, you'd understand my exuberance of this project to getting to the thing. So we're actually going to try to make up the difference, hopefully, of what we need by private funds. And obviously, we'll be applying, encouraging the next commission to be applying for some additional grants. So anyway, and I'll be standing over there instead of over here. So, so anyway, thank you.
I'm all set.
Okay.
And I talked to Representative Oberdorf this morning, and he told me that there is a meeting tomorrow at the Port Salerno Civic Center, starting at 10 o'clock, and it's going to be state and federal agencies doing disaster recovery stuff. So any residents, you know, it's at the Civic Center because that was the area that was most impacted by the tornadoes. So if you have some ongoing questions, needs, that would be a good place for you to go tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we'll have representatives of the county there, and the state will be there. The feds are invited. We expect them to be there, but insurance, we'll be able to discuss with them how we're dealing with debris, and pick up. And of course, debris on private property is how we do have a plan for how to deal with that to those who need help. And So yes, that'll be tomorrow at the Civic Center. FEMA also has their disaster recovery center at the fairgrounds, which is also providing individual assistance. But one of the things that we're interested in finding out is those who are falling through the cracks and haven't gotten any help yet. So that's a big part of what that outreach is for, and helping people with insurance and how they deal with insurance. So Toby, I know, and our representatives, Schneider as well, will be helping to get the insurance commissioner and their staff there to help people with those tough questions.
Commissioner Campy.
To your point about debris on private property, I had someone reach out to me from Palm City Farms that had a lot of debris on their property, and I guess word is going around, hopefully, that will help some people there, because otherwise, they're going to put it all out on the street. And I told them not to do that.
No, that's exactly what they need to do.
No, I'm talking mountains of stuff.
That's what you do. We cannot enter private property.
Even with permission?
Not unless we declare it a health and safety emergency, and that would be for structures that have collapsed. So we do
Because-
not, we don't go onto undamaged homes and clear people's property.
The only problem is these people are large landowners on Citrus Boulevard.
That's fine. I mean, it's what we do, it's part of what happens. If it's not in the right of way, we will not get paid. We will not get any federal funds if we don't, if it's.
And that's why when you said the other parts, it just made me think of it.
So no, and Jim is here to clarify, but it's a disaster debris pickup is complicated in the fact that the expectation is that you're working on public property, which is our right-of-ways. We do provide a normal service in our pickup. Not everybody has a pickup like ours, but if you have a vacant lot that did not have a house on it, that is not eligible. If it's a home, yes, it is eligible. So those are some of the issues if you want to address them. Obviously, if there's a big pile in the street that was next to a vacant lot, we'll deal with it. But the idea is that we're serving residential properties, not vacant or silviculture areas that just want to clear their property and put it at the street. It's got to be for residences.
Right. Jim Gordon, Public Works Director. So I think I've got that same resident, 8251 Citrus, has a large amount of debris, so we can't enter into it under the FEMA program. However, other agencies may be able to, and we're trying to get Division of Forestry to meet with them because they might be able to do a right of entry project where they might be able to help them out. So that's ongoing right now, is to see if they have the ability to move that material. If any volunteer organization can bring that material out to us, then we're allowed to pick it up under our FEMA program. So, and FEMA's here. I was just meeting with them for the last couple of hours, and they're looking at everything that's happening right now, and they're monitoring what's going on. They're happy with where we're at right now, but they definitely have some guardrails that we have to stay within, and we're familiar with what those are. And, we want to make sure we don't jeopardize our reimbursement because this is millions of dollars.
Yeah, we're looking at excess of $3 million in debris pickup alone. And if you, just to give you a magnitude of how small this event was, that's, we're currently at $3 to $5 million of costs. And while everybody is here to help, if you don't follow the rules, that $3 million or $5 million could be on the backs of our taxpayers. So that's why we're very careful about how we do it. We're being fast about it, but we're also very knowledgeable and know what we're doing.
Commissioner Smith.
And Jim, thank you for being here, because now it just prompted the question. So do we have a schedule as to, is it Waste Management doing it? Is it us doing it? Because I haven't noticed, like on Sewell's Point, I haven't noticed any of that debris moving away yet.
So it's a combination thereof. So tomorrow, we have a debris management contractor who's measuring in trucks tomorrow. So we're going to have contracted services picking up material. We also have our internal crews. We have Public Works crews and a utilities crew that's working on that stuff to supplement the contractor and to really bridge the gap between when the event happened and when the contractor gets here. So both of those things are happening. And then finally, if it's normal yard waste, less than 10 cubic yards, which is essentially 3 refrigerators kind of in size, then it'll be picked up under the waste management contract. So small piles generally will be picked up by waste management if they're vegetation. Larger piles will be put into our program, and we're tracking those. The residents have been putting the information into our request for service system. We've been mapping out where all of those are so that we can be efficient in the way that we use our resources to pick that material up. So the answer is really all 3. It could be any of those 3, but if it's a small pile, it's going to be waste management. It just won't be quite as fast as they normally have because
Pretty fast.
they're pretty fast. They usually pick up on Wednesdays, but it might be 2 Wednesdays by the time they get there. They did bring in, Waste did bring in additional resources. They normally have 12 clamshell trucks. Right now, they're running 15 in Martin County.
See them everywhere.
Yep, so they're all over the place picking up those smaller piles, but the bigger piles that we see in some of the areas that were harder hit, like Citrus Boulevard or Country Place off of Citrus Boulevard, is just incredible how many beautiful pine trees and oak trees have been destroyed out there. Hundreds and hundreds of cubic yards of debris is out there. And then obviously the areas in town as well that were damaged, so. So we're going to be picking up starting tomorrow after the trucks get measured in. So the FEMA program requires you to determine what the cubic yardage volume of each truck is so that we can determine how much material they have in each load. And that's what's happening tomorrow is they're measuring all of those, and then they're going to put them out on the road. So you'll see them in 3 or 4 different spots, the hardest hit spots, and then we're going to move out from those spots thereafter.
So it could be still a week or 2 in Sewell's Point or Jensen or any place up north.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say, let's plan on being several weeks, and then if we exceed those expectations, then that's what we'll do. But I just want to, it is a countywide impact, although certain areas are harder hit, and I think it's appropriate for us to focus in those harder areas so that they have room to move more debris out. Because right now, we've got a situation in some neighborhoods where their entire right-of-way is full, and they can't put anything else out. So we have to get that material out so they can bring the next load to us. So that's what we're going to do over the next couple of weeks, and then we're going to radiate out from there.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate that, repeat that. We always have a debris removal emergency contract signed, ready to go. We're ready to go. We don't have to do anything. We just activate our contract, and that hasn't been activated yet. But I have to say that Martin County, your department has been on the job ever since the storm came through. There's so much debris that's on the right-of-way, but there's been so much that's been removed already. It's astonishing. And I think you said that our county has removed more debris than any other county in Florida.
Well, I haven't looked in the last couple of days, but we were ahead of most of the other counties with in-house resources.
And that's with Martin County, trucks and employees. Terrific job.
Why don't you hold Norm's retirement off till the end of the year?
I would if I could.
Yes,
Probably can.
would too. I do have one business item for you all that I'm requesting, and that is the schedule of commission meetings for the new year. And so for at least 3 of you to consider for me would be that we have 2 meetings in December. And that first meeting in December also happens to coincide with the Ecosystem Restoration Task Force meeting and some fact training. So I'm asking that if, with your permission, that during the reorg, we will not propose to have a December 3rd meeting and just have 1 meeting in December, if you all agree with that.
Sounds good to me.
No. Very well, I'll allow it.
Thank you, sir.
Stifling the public participation.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned.